Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to the Friday night edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight, Friday the 13th. And we're going to have a good show tonight. We have Aleksander Czeszkiewicz coming on the show tonight. We're going to talk about lost cities, lost humanity. We're going to talk about it all. We're going deep dive into long folklorish history coming on up. But first, we want to say hello to each and every one of you. And that starts off with Race Fan in the gold medal position. Tib Mothman in his goatee with a silver. Amy Allo with a bronze medal tonight. Kitty Cattywhack, how are you? Paula Faust and Mel WD40. Nice to have you here. Mel WD40 lubing us up for tonight's show because you always want to go into a show about lost cities with a lot of lube. So thank you, Mel, for lubing us up as we speak. The Roswell alien, how are you? That's right. No ugly swag. Nothing ugly there. And just for that, Roswell Alien will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Necessary Dialogue, Lisa Smith, Ed T-Bone, my man. How you doing? Frankie B, nice to see you. Candace Helfrich, good to have you here as we continue on with our roll call and say hello to Road Flare, as well as Werewolf and Jaquetta. Nice to see you all. Scrolling on down. Up next, we have Luscious Jewels. And Frankie B, been a member for 7 months now. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. Aussie Boss Tiger, nice to have you here as we scroll on down on our roll call to say hello to East Coast Turnaround over on X. And number 16 in your program tonight, starting at left wing from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. Charlene Skywalker, Integrationing, nice to have you here. Algaray on Twitch, so excited about the lost cities tonight and lost civilizations that he went to the gym and ran for 48 minutes straight without even touching his water. Yeah, combined 39 miles. 39 miles in 48 minutes. He was running fast tonight. Seems impossible, but it's not for him. All right, moving on down. The lovely, the talented Deanna Ann. Nice to see you. Jennifer Beveridge, how you doing, neighbor? As we continue on with our roll call, Jose Sanchez is here. Jose will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. We move on down and we say hi to Fat Nuts, the T-Boo version of Grape Nuts. Monkey Watch You, welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you. Desert Rat and Warden Dragon, nice to see you guys here. As we scroll on down, and Jorgensen with a soft J. How you doing, my friend? What is that? Peter Gontars, welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for joining us. Sorry, the font is just terrible on here. I wish the font was bigger. All right, let's see here. Sweet Donna C, nice to see you. Bobbert, good to have you here. And who is next here? Matthew Goodka. Thank you for coming on in. We are caught up there. Hey, we want to remind all of you the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Also, if you haven't seen it already, because I've been flashing it up there quite a bit, you can get tickets for Caribou Con 2026, September 18th through 20th in beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. We want to see you all up here. Get your VIP tickets right now for Caribou Con at cariboucon.com. cariboucon.com. Roll call will continue right after I start the radio side. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have a great guest. Aleksander Czeszkiewicz is here. We're going to talk about lost cities, lost treasures, a lot of universe of the mysteries. We're going to see it all tonight. Mike Rivers and Two Shadows, welcome to SOR chat room tonight as we get ready for tonight's show. T-Bone, thank you for kicking off the super chat. Once again, you are a hero, my friend. A hero. And you're always dressed so nicely and dapper. Paramarv, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. And Holly Hall, it is always a pleasure to have you here. The Holly Hall. All right, JMJ12, how you doing? And I think we're caught up. We are caught up. So let's get this thing going. Hopefully my nose doesn't run through the entire show. That just started an hour ago. Horns up. Rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Caribou Con. Head to cariboucon.com and get your VIP tickets today for a beautiful paranormal conference in the heart of British Columbia. We have an amazing show tonight all the way from Poland. Aleksander Czeszkiewicz is going to be here to talk about Earth's lost mysteries. It's going to be a great show indeed. I'm very excited about learning this. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will kick things off. Right after that, Josh Rutledge will be filling in for an ailing Lee Strauss in the Q&A to wrap up tonight's show. So let's get right to it, shall we? Aleksander Czeszkiewicz is a Polish researcher and author. His first book was written just at the age of 17, followed by many articles and shorter works. He collaborated and was included in plenty of podcasts all around the world, including Earth Ancients podcast with Cliff Dunning. His main areas of research and interest are lost civilizations, Atlantis, lost history of humanity, consciousness, and the entire universe. If you want to check out his website, it is czeszkiewiczglobal.com. I'll spell that for you. CZESZKIEWICZ global.com. So go check it on out. Aleksander Czeszkiewicz, it is great to have you on Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
This is going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I got to tell you, man, when I was 17 years old, all I knew in life was that I wanted to chase girls, I wanted to play hockey, and I wanted to have fun. And here you are at 17 years old, way back when, doesn't look that long ago, and you're writing books and articles.
Yes, I was speedrunning my life and had plenty of things going on in my teenage years, so I was taking all the opportunities, not only at writing, also at sports and other stuff.
How did you get started in all of this? What was the interest?
When it comes to the main topics of today, like lost civilizations, mysteries of the universe, it started when I was teenager, when I was in the middle high school. I was always a good student, had no problems at exams and stuff like that. But in order to be safer at choosing high school next after the middle high school, I attempted plenty of different competitions. And it was especially during the historical one that I started questioning stuff that I was learning, and I started saying that there is probably much more to what we are being taught about our past. So that's when I started researching all of that, and this led, as you've said in the beginning, to me writing, and it was this book, Deja Vu Has Everything Already Been. It's like 400 pages plus, with footnotes, bibliography, everything about lost civilizations and cyclical time. And this is, the basis of the story, how it started such at an early age.
The fact that you allowed your imagination to grab a hold of a subject that meant something to you because you wanted to learn more as a young man, I commend you for that. I really do commend you for that. And I think it is absolutely awesome that you decided to find your niche and you decided to run with it. You ran with it, and you've written books on it. You've become a premier talker on this subject all around the world. That happened pretty fast.
Yes, it happened. Thank you. I had a few, like, even years of breaks in between. Right now I'm 23. I'm also a student at my local university here in Gdańsk, and I was positively surprised because what we are talking about is very often considered alternative history, alternative science, and so on. But actually, I gave a few copies of my book to a few doctors and professors, and some of them were positively surprised that it's good that young people are interested in such topics. And right now I'm like interdisciplinary student, and I'm studying what I love. So ancient civilizations, mainly Middle East, with languages, religions, and stuff like that. And it started very early because also I had like the background for everything. I was, as I said, always a good student. I had plenty of resources. My mom was actually a historian, so I had plenty of books and stuff like that. And probably it was during all of the research, because for this competition during my middle high school, I needed to learn the entire history, even prehistory, from the hominids before our own species millions of years ago up until the modern times. And I started questioning the big picture of how it is shown to us. And I started questioning, and it's not even questioning, I started asking basic questions about how do we know that? How do we know that this civilization was the first one? How do we know that this was the turn of events, that this led to this led to that, and so on? And then I started reading, more sources, even more controversial ones, what the ancient ancestors were talking about. And as you've said, I led up into this niche, and I want to, because I have the capability to do that. I have the background right now, and I have, at least to some extent, some freedom. So I want to discover the biggest mysteries of the entire reality, universe, not only history, because I think these are the important things that can completely change our understanding of reality, can really impact the entire world, and not only focusing specifically on one area for most of our lives that can lead us to only small percentage of change and of evolution.
When you look back on what got you started on this, what was the one piece that really caught your attention that you said, I need to study this. I need to delve into this. Was it Atlantis? Was it, something maybe biblical? Was it Gobekli Tepe? What was it?
I think the main idea was, unfortunately, the big picture of not like specific one topic or specific one object, artifact, building, but the entire big picture of how our history was presented to young people during in their educational system curriculum. Because I've also had at my home some older books from 20, 30, 40 years before. And when I compared what was being taught 40 or 30 years before me and what was being taught at the moment that I was studying, I've seen plenty of differences, plenty. And you see it even nowadays, right now. When I was about 5 years ago writing my book, it was a common consensus, even a conservative one, that anatomically modern humans, so our species, the same ones as we are today, appeared about 200,000 years ago. And right now it's about, conservatively, 315,000, so 60% older than that. And it's even believed that we diverged, let's say, from the previous hominid about 500,000 years ago. And I've seen plenty of different examples of that. I remember recently reading a book from like 2004 or something, so a little bit more than 20 years ago, and I was shocked that it was that anatomically modern humans appeared 50,000 years ago. And again, I remember having some textbooks from my parents, and it was, when it comes to the, let's say, ancient history, it was again completely different and presented in different form. That, for instance, there was no mention of ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Sumer. It was that Egypt was the first, then Greece, then Rome. So I've seen these differences, I think, and how we were taking back the roots of both humanity as a species, both civilizations, discovering new ones. And I've seen that if just in a few decades there was such a change, what will be different, let's say, in the next 20, 30, 50 years. And there are plenty of examples from history that we were discovering stuff. For instance, ancient Mesopotamia. Right now we know that ancient Sumer is the first civilization, let's say in the mainstream paradigm, of course, without alternative ones, lost civilization, but let's say in the mainstream it is common knowledge that ancient Sumer about 3500 BC is the first civilization. But actually most of any kind of civilizations from the Middle East, because it's not only Sumerians but also Akkadians and other ones, we discovered that less than 200 years ago, in 1840s. And these civilizations were less than 200 years ago considered purely mythical. There were no evidence, we didn't start any excavations there, so we thought, oh, maybe these are just legends. And right now it's common knowledge that these are the basics of civilization. So I thought to myself, when it comes to other stories like ancestral narratives about the famous Atlantis and other lost civilizations, what if it is right now the same situation, that we consider them in the mainstream, of course, as just mythical, legendary, because we just haven't found the evidence for them yet, but maybe our history is older, and maybe in 20 years it will be common knowledge, as in the case of ancient Sumerians, that these were the first civilizations. So I think the big picture was the main idea that started my research and started everything.
What did your parents think?
I think they were open to such theories. They are not like, they were supportive throughout my career. I published my first book with their financial assist, but they aren't like very in-depth going on these topics, but are very open about that. As I've said, my mom was a historian in years ago.
Did they think this was something you would grow out of, or did they just really encourage you to keep researching?
No, I think it wasn't like just, oh, it will be just a phase in my life. No, I think they were to some extent happy that, because it was, of course, better than just doing nothing or doing bad things. And I was just, reading books, researching stuff. So they were positive about that.
I love it. I love the fact that you've delved so deeply into this, the passion that you have for it. What keeps that passion going? Because you're just studying history books. It's tough to find anything new. What's the passion?
I think the passion is that we hear all of these, for instance, Ancient Aliens TV program, we hear all of these crazy stories about giants, lost civilization and stuff like that, and modern debunkers want to say, oh, it's all myths, legends, nothing. But when you actually, and I started very early on when I was 15 or something, getting translations of the original ancient texts like Plato's Dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, in which he describes Atlantis, or the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or any kind of other Mahabharata, the Vedas and stuff like that. And when you actually read the original text, or the famous Book of Enoch, or other stuff, you see crazy things going on there, and that it isn't just myths and legends, but our ancient ancestors were portraying the past in a completely different and crazy way. That, you know, there were so many mysteries. Here are the giants, here are the Nephilim, here are the destructions, here Atlantis is sinking and stuff like that. Here are the Vimanas, flying machines, here are psychic capabilities, and the exact calculations of what era are we in, where, when the flood was and stuff like that. You see that there's tons of knowledge in these ancient texts that survived till our times, and that it's from our modern perspective of, let's say, just we are learning textbooks, scientific ones, physics, chemistry, biology, history. It's a crazy, literally crazy story, but you also see that these stories are very compatible to each other. If you check out the Middle Eastern sources, ancient India, Mesopotamia, and other, they are very compatible with each other. It's not like, oh, these people were imagining this stuff, these people were imagining these, or oh, this is fantasy, like ancient sci-fi of our ancestors. No, you see that there are plenty of connections, even exact connections, like the dates, names, different kinds of deities, of groups of people of certain number, like 7 people here, 7 people there, that build the civilizations and stuff like that. So I think this is the biggest passion, that you see that in these texts there are so many things, and they are to some extent unresolved mysteries, because if they aren't in the textbook, or if they aren't in the, you know, mainstream narrative about our past, you see that it is very worthy of investigating these topics. And I started just last year studying here at my local university, and I was again positively surprised, because I've been talking about these things for years, that actually at this academic level, at least here in Poland, we are learning that we know almost nothing about our history. It's like a small percentage when it comes to the ancient past, and probably even, you know, historians are telling us that we may never know the exact truth, let's say historically, from the methodological perspective, because not many things survive till our times.
Do you think there will ever come a time when we are able to actually solve these mysteries of the pyramids or ancient Greece, or find where Noah's Ark is, or even Atlantis?
Yes, I'm very positive and very optimistic about that, because I see so many new discoveries. For instance, what I've learned in the last few months is that, for instance, again, we know that, oh, ancient Sumerians were the first civilizations, but there are actually, even in the mainstream narrative, but it's not very often talked about, there are a few proto-civilizations, pre-civilizations, that predate ancient Sumerians at least 1,000 years. So they were 1,000 years before the Sumerians, but they are not officially called civilization, because, for instance, one didn't have a writing system, or it just haven't survived till our times. And when it comes to the definition of civilization, it needs to have writing system. Or in another continent, and even there are a few ones from Eastern Europe that are at least 1,000 years older than the Sumerians, we see that we have something that looks like script, looks like writing, but because we cannot decipher it yet, this writing or this signs or something, we cannot say it's language or it's writing, because we cannot decipher it. So maybe these are just some different kinds of signs. So I'm very optimistic about that. And as I've said, I've been studying very extensively. This was my initial passion about the history of science, because the science is just actually a few hundred years old, and other ancestral narratives, all of these stories are thousands of years old, repeated in plenty of cultures all across the globe. These were traditions that were much longer than the modern science itself. And as I've said, this example of ancient Mesopotamia, that we had plenty of different sources about. It was not only the Sumerians, but there are plenty Sumerians, Akkadians, Assyrians, Babylonians. We had a few about Assyrians and Babylonians sources from the later times, but there were also sources speaking that there were huge cities, huge civilizations. Religious texts like the Bible said that Abraham came from a Sumerian, probably city of Ur, and later we found that this city was real. But there were even historians, ancient ones, that were talking about civilizations in the Middle East, but everything was covered in mud. We didn't have any evidence for that, so all of that was considered mythical. But right now, if you look at the ancient Mesopotamia, there have been so many things discovered, about 3,000 years of forgotten history, and you can have like plenty of such big books about all of the discoveries. And it started in 1840s. Ancient Egypt was known to the Europeans of the Renaissance, of the medieval ages, but there were only a few expeditions there before, let's say, Napoleonic one in the late 1700s, early 1800s. So you see that the modern history is a very recent one, and I think that we'll find more and more evidence. Just that we haven't found the Atlantis yet doesn't mean that it didn't exist. So I'm very optimistic that we will find these kinds of things, but it's also about other mysteries like the pyramids or other stuff. I think it's not only about the material science in this current form, objective one, but I think it's also about, again, another topic for a bit later today, about philosophy of science, how it works, methodology, because I think we need some kind of paradigm shift, some kind of update to the basics of science in order to expand our horizons and get into these bigger mysteries, like maybe mysteries of spirituality, of psychic abilities, of the pyramids, their energy, or remote viewing and stuff like that. So I think it's also about science. Oh, I cannot hear you, but I don't know if it's on limit.
There you go. We have about 2.5 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Aleksander Czeszkiewicz is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're talking about a lot of history that we've only been able to read through books, and those words going back thousands of years. How do you translate those words to try and find something new, whether it's a location or another clue to maybe answer a mystery?
To be short, I think the best way is to compare plenty of different texts and search for similar motives, similar topics about like the Great Flood, the Cataclysm that destroyed civilization or kickstarted one. I think this is the best way, but it's not only text. We find more and more artifacts, maybe in some cases single ones, that are again taking the roots of civilization, of civilized humanity culture by thousands of years, and I think we should go into this topic after the break, like Gobekli Tepe and plenty of other archaeological stuff too, because it's not only the texts.
Well, you know what? It is, as we got about 90 seconds to go, it is a fascinating subject, at least, because I think as someone who looks from the outside like I do, it's very tough for me to look at this and say, what else can we discover? But people like me were naive to the subject because we're not throwing our emotional investment into the subject, which is what you have and a number of others have in order to try and solve the mystery. But it is really a big jigsaw puzzle.
Yes, I will expand this idea that there are much more things happening, that there is a huge probability about what was happening in the most distant eras. There are so many stuff, so just after the break, because I based my book on actually such questions.
I get it. I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because when we come back, we're going to hit him with some hard questions here.
Okay, let's go.
What happened to the lost civilizations? Why ancient cities just vanished, disappeared? Our guest tonight is Aleksander Czeszkiewicz. He is a researcher into the mysteries of the universe, from cosmology to lost ancient civilizations. We're going to get right into it when we return on Spaced Out Radio. This is a good show. This is a young man who has taken the bull by the horns and wants to find out what really happened thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago. This is Spaced Out Radio. All right, we are clear. Now, our YouTube audience can still hear us. Our podcast audience can hear us, but our radio stations cannot. So now we just get to tinker around with our words here. A great start, by the way. Great start.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed talking about these topics. I've been talking about this for years, so it's just, cool experience for me.
All right. Excuse me. Yeah, this is great. I'm loving what you're saying, my man. This is I think you're a very smart individual.
Thank you. Years of practice, however funny it sounds.
Right?
Yeah, from like 16 or something. So it's been 7 years or 6 years, something like that. So plenty of podcasts, plenty of speeches, let's say, plenty of these topics. So
all right. Anybody else come in here? And Lil Cam, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. We've got about 3 minutes here, my friend. You caught me muted. I forgot to turn my microphone back on. I muted myself to blow my nose. Last thing the audience wants to hear is me sounding like a trumpet on the air.
yeah. Oh, I see that we are on YouTube, that people can hear us. So I'm from Poland. There are some questions, and if you want, my book is Deja Vu Has Everything Already Been, and you can find it on Amazons like US, UK, Canada, Australia, and plenty of more. And there are plenty of stuff. There are plenty of illustrations, images, sources, quotes, and stuff like that.
And for the record, I pronounced Alexander's last name properly the first time.
Yeah.
I did not butcher it. I got it right. I think you were a little bit shocked by that.
yeah. Very good.
Whistling Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Oh. I always tell people when they ask where they can find me, like on podcasts, on social media, they mean, so I always tell copy and paste my name and surname, and that's the easiest way to find me.
Tim Mothman and your goatee. Why did you spill oatmeal all over your keyboard? Jennifer Beveridge, I'm glad this is what you needed tonight, my dear. How long did I practice the name? Well, I will tell you, there are a number of sports athletes. Once you got the first part, so CZ is always ch, the ch sound. And then the SZ is always like a ch type sound. And then the KIW, CIW, or CISW is pronounced Kavich. So I know that from when I worked in sports radio, there are a couple athletes that had the Kavich in their last name. So that's how I was able to get it, no problem.
There are worse sour names in Eastern Europe, like in Serbia, Bosnia, Romania, that even I can't pronounce properly.
Oh, I get that, my friend. I get that. We got about 30 seconds. Thank you tonight to Jorgensen and T-Bone for the super chats. We greatly appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you very much. If you haven't already, do us a favor. Give us a big thumbs up because it really helps with the algorithms. Uncle Jimbo, little Jimmy Goodall is here, everybody. Say hello to Jim. And Caps, welcome to SOR Chat. I feel like I'm watching my grandpa talk. I am a grandfather, so I'll take that as a compliment. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have Aleksander Czeszkiewicz here tonight talking about lost cities, lost history, and universal mysteries. We're going to bring him back momentarily, but first I want to remind all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Aleksander Czeszkiewicz is here. We're talking about history. Where are Atlantis? Where are the pyramids being built from? Or who made the pyramids, I should say. Let's use some proper English out there. Aleksander, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
The history and knowledge that goes into it, where do you think Atlantis is?
I think, and it's even based on the original, most famous and primal text when it comes to Atlantis, the Plato's Dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. Plato isn't describing just the city, single location, as plenty of people suggest, but he's telling us that it was a maritime civilization, global empire that had its influence from the Atlantic Ocean over most of the Mediterranean Sea, Italy, that Egypt was its colony. So I don't think Atlantis was a single city, single location, but that it was an empire that used water and traveled into plenty of places like Egypt, like entire Mediterranean, maybe Americas, and maybe all over the world even.
Where do you think it was, though? Because we had a guest on, I think about a week ago, who believed that it was somewhere buried under the Sahara Desert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that Sahara Desert is a good option for that, because Plato is telling us that it was beyond or in front of the Pillars of Hercules, which we know very well that it was the Straits of Gibraltar, so the straits connecting the Mediterranean with the Atlantic Ocean, and plenty of people say, oh, it was not this, but it was like a small island in the Mediterranean, but they are not reading Plato correctly, because Plato is telling us that it was beyond the Mediterranean. He distinguishes Mediterranean from the Atlantic Ocean, and he says that it was beyond these pillars or in front of them, and there was this huge body of water, Okeanos in Greek, ocean, and then after this body of water there was a huge continent surrounding it. And if we are looking at sailing from the Straits of Gibraltar outside into the Atlantic Ocean, we see that Americas both Americas, with of course the central one, are like a huge continent that surrounds the Atlantic Ocean from this perspective. So we know very well that Plato meant the Atlantic Ocean, not like a small island somewhere on the Mediterranean Sea. And why Sahara? Because there are a few arguments for that. Plenty of people say that these parts were much more abundant. Of course, we know that very well, even scientifically in water, that Sahara was lush at some point, that there were plenty of rivers. So maybe they connected the Atlantic Ocean. You know, they went from the Atlantic Ocean by the river into, let's say, the city of Atlantis. And plenty of people are, for instance, showing the Richat structure. Unfortunately, yet we haven't found any kind of cool evidence and very strong evidence that the Richat structure was man-made creation that could lead us to saying that it was Atlantis. But I think that Sahara is a very good option. And when we see this maritime empire, even in the Platonic text, we see that, okay, if it had influences over the Mediterranean, not only the northern part like Italy, but also the southern part, maybe it also was in the place of Sahara. We see Atlas Mountains in Morocco. We see that they are there. So I think Sahara is a good option. But I think, again, if we are even talking about this famous lost city of Atlantis that Plato is describing, as when it comes not to the empire but to the city of, let's say, in the middle there was the hill with the temple of Poseidon, and there were these famous concentric rings that are very similar to the Eye of Sahara. I think it may be just a single city. That's why I think that both locations like the Eye of Sahara, or let's say some strange structures found by radars nearby Azor Island on the Atlantic Ocean, or even a few other locations, like right now there is researcher Michael Donnellan showing that there are some structures off the coast of Spain, which is also the place like outside of this or in front of the Straits of Gibraltar. I think that there could have been plenty of Atlantean cities, maybe even similar ones. Right now we also create similar cities. There are plenty of different attempts to rebuild Rome, for instance. So I think these locations like Eye of Sahara one, the other would be Azores, even another one would be the Cadiz, Spain, somewhere there. And maybe some colonies or some smaller cities, at least they look smaller, off the shore of Cuba, Central America, things like that. These are my points when it comes to the location.
What do you think happened to it? Because there was allegedly 1 million plus people there, and yet they all seem to have vanished, like they never existed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's very, again, coincidental when it comes to the mainstream history. But even if we, let's start very conservatively from what we know in the mainstream science, how everything worked. Plato's date for existence or sinking of Atlantis 9,000 years before the lawgiver Solon, because Solon went to Egypt and there found the Atlantis story, and they said, 9,000 years before our interaction there was Atlantis. So about 9,600 BC is coincidentally the same time that there was the ending of the last ice age. So logically, ice age was ending, glaciers were melting, so there were huge meltwaters all over the globe that could have led to the sinking of Atlantis. And geologically speaking, it's considered a fact that from the times of approximately Plato's sinking of Atlantis up until the ancient times or nowadays, there was a sea level rise of about 120 meters, so 400 feet, which is like a skyscraper. This was the sea level change from the end of the last ice age, because most of the northern hemisphere, part of the south, was covered for tens of thousands of years before that with ice sheets, and these ice sheets started melting because it was the ending of the last ice age, climate change, and because of that, there was such a huge sea level change. And also when it comes to how much area sunk all over the world. It is estimated that from the end of the last ice age up until nowadays, there was about, I think, 25 million or 30 million square kilometers, which is approximately like the entire North America, including Mexico, Canada, US, not just USA, entire North America, all over the world, of course. So it was spread in plenty of islands, seashores, and stuff like that. But there were such huge changes, and it is basic academic fact. So I think that it's not coincidence that Plato chose such a date. And even again, if we want to be conservative, let's say that we do not agree that there was cataclysm at the end of the last ice age that led to the sinking of Atlantis. I think that even if we are conservative, we see huge possibilities for such a story as sinking of Atlantis to appear at the end of the last ice age, because glaciers were melting and all over the world huge areas of land were sinking.
What are some of the greatest clues out there about Atlantis existing?
I think that what we've just talked about is the first one, that there is huge possibility for actually plenty of lost lands and lost cities to exist at the end of the last ice age, so before the end of the last ice age, and being completely destroyed at the end of the last ice age when there was this sea level change. But when it comes to the evidence for Atlantis, I think the basic one is, again, how Plato is describing it, because Plato isn't telling us, oh, this is the story of Atlantis or something. He is putting this entire story of lost civilization into a completely different story that is, when we are reading it, historically based on historical facts, because we hear that it was Solon, a very great Greek lawgiver about 500 something, 600 BC, that went to Egypt. And we had other sources that are telling us that Solon truly went to Egypt, like I think Plutarch, Herodotus, and others telling us that he went there. And Plato is telling us that there at a city of size, he found the story of Atlantis, and he was told about it by the Egyptian priests. And what is interesting is he says tons of facts there. For instance, that when Solon met the Egyptian priests, they said, oh, the famous quote, "You Greeks are like children. You have no history, and what is your history? Your recorded history is nothing in comparison to ancient Egyptian one, because you just have a few hundred years of history before you, and we Egyptians have records of thousands and even tens of thousands of years before that." And when we compare it to, it's called historiography, so what modern historiography, what we think, let's say academically speaking, about history, an ancient historiography, so the Greek one and the Egyptian one. And we see that, yes, Egyptian records are plenty of sources there. Egyptian kings, there's plenty of them telling us that there were like tens of thousands of years of Egyptian history. And also the Greek one, that Plato stated the fact that actually the Greeks believed in only, like, let's say a few hundred, maybe 1,000 years of their history. So he's stating as facts. Even if we compare it to other Platonic dialogues, maybe Plato is using facts as his, let's say, idealization of different ideas because he was a philosopher, but he is even in other dialogues using facts. So I believe that he also used facts when it comes to the Atlantis story. So I think this is the biggest validation of the Atlantean story, that Egyptian sources are telling us maybe not exactly about the destruction of Atlantis in the same way, but they are telling us that there was this traditions going tens of thousands of years ago. So this is the validity one, the biggest, claim, smoking gun. But when it comes to the evidence, I think the best actually evidence comes from the other side of the world, from the Mesoamerica, because in the Aztec mind there was this lost cradle of humanity called Aztlan or Atitlan. Aztlan, Atitlan, Atlantis, I think almost the same word. And what is interesting is that Plato in the, let's say, Western world was not the first one to use the word Atlantis, because before him, I think even more than 100 years before him, Hellanicus of Lesbos used the same word, but we do not know exactly in what context, because only like a few words of his poems survived. So we do not know what he was talking there about, but maybe also Atlantis before Plato. But when it comes to the best evidence from this Mesoamerican one, it's not only, let's say, this idea that lost civilization and similar name, but these are are already like two arguments, but also the look of this land. And this land of Aztlan was later modeled as the Aztec capital, even in the conquistadors' time, the Tenochtitlan. And when we compare Tenochtitlan to Atlantis, it looks exactly like Atlantis. To a large extent, maybe it doesn't have this famous concentric rings, but Tenochtitlan was an Aztec city, huge capital of about, I think, up to 100,000 people could live there, or at least a few tens of thousands of people. But when it comes to Tenochtitlan, it was said it was modeled after Aztlan, so modeled after Atlantis probably. But we see that it was on Lake Texcoco, so on water. It was partially a natural island in the middle with plenty of artificial islands connected by bridges, which is similar to Plato's famous rings of water and rings of land surrounding Atlantis. But here we do not have rings, but just islands. But it is a model of Atlantis, not like an exact copy. But what is the most important is, and it can be found echoed in plenty of myths and legends all over the world, that in Atlantis story there is that in the middle there was a hill, and on this hill there was the temple of Poseidon being built. And in the case of Tenochtitlan, we have this famous Mesoamerican pyramids. It was Templo Mayor there. And we know very well how Mesoamerican pyramids look like. They do not look like the Egyptian ones, that they have like straight angles and just a pyramid, but they are like this artificial mound. It's not even looking very often like a pyramid, but artificial mound. And on the top of this mound, there is this chapel or a temple or something. And I think that this is actually, when in this context of Tenochtitlan, Aztlan, Atlantis, this is a model of Atlantis, that they recreated that by using this pyramid, because maybe there was no natural hill there, so they built this pyramid. And we know this Mesoamerican pyramids, it is like an artificial hill, and on the top it's this temple. So the same in Tenochtitlan, Templo Mayor, so the grand temple. And we see very well that, in my opinion, it's a model, an attempt of recreating the Atlantis. So not only the name Aztlan, Atitlan, similar to Atlantis, but even the description and the model of it is almost the same as in the Plato on the other side of the globe in Mesoamerica.
Many people have this romanticism that Atlantis is or was a highly technological city, much maybe even more advanced than we are today. How much do you put into that?
Again, you said about romanticizing it, but actually from most of the sources we know about Atlantis, even some psychic ones like channelings or Edgar Cayce stories, we see that Atlantis was actually a very negative civilization. It wasn't all reds and roses, and actually it was their fall, just as in the biblical version of the Garden of Eden and fall of humanity. It was their fall that led to the natural disaster, that led to their destruction, led to the sinking of Atlantis, because Plato is telling us that they started at some point, that they were again at some point this mighty civilization, but at some point they became greedy. He said also that they became like animals, and that led to their final fall and destruction. And actually this destruction of Atlantis was like a heavenly kind of disaster sent, because they were so bad. And Plato is even telling us, when it comes to the original sources, that they started fighting with, for instance, Athenians and other kind of nations all over the world. They wanted to conquer all the land. So this was one of the negative part, but the other was that they were becoming like pigs, like animals. So that led to their fall. And for instance, in the channeled readings like the Cayce ones and others, it is also the same theme, that they started to be very, very negative. In these channeled readings there are mentions of actual advanced technology, because in Plato it's only that they were able to travel the seas, the oceans with their boats, and they were able to conquer plenty of lands, that Egypt was even their colony. So connection that maybe the Atlanteans built the pyramids, but Plato is not telling us about like very, very advanced technology. He's telling us about orichalcum, so a special metal that they were creating. But when it comes to this psychic channeled sources, there are plenty of them. Frederick Oliver, Edgar Cayce, they are telling us the same story, that they were also advanced technologically, and they were using technology for bad causes, and because of that it led to disharmony of the entire planet, and that's why they didn't survive. So when it comes to, let's say, historical sources, we do not have like direct mentions that they were so advanced. Even other advanced technologies like the Vimanas and other kind of things are in other texts, and they are not directly connected to the Atlantis story. So in original text we do not have this idea of advanced technology, but in psychic readings and other kind of non-historical sources we do have such mentions.
We have about 5.5 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Aleksander Czeszkiewicz is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. One of the other big mysteries that gets talked about a lot is Gobekli Tepe. How much have you looked into this?
Yeah, Gobekli Tepe is directly connected to the Atlantis and what we just talked before about taking the roots of civilization history back time and time again by thousands or even in some cases tens of thousands of years. Gobekli Tepe was the biggest game changer for all ancient aliens, Atlantis, alternative history, because in the 70s, in the 80s, and I've been researching the history of history, but also history of theories of different ones, that in the 70s and 80s, the biggest argument against such theories was, for instance, people were claiming, oh, the Sphinx is much older, thousands of years older. Oh, the pyramids are from the Atlantean times. Oh, Atlantis was real. And the biggest argument against it from the mainstream historians or archaeologists was that we didn't have any evidence that people 10,000 BC, 9,000 BC, so during these times, were capable of creating megalithic things, at least, not to mention other crazy technologies. But then in, I think, 1994, so middle 90s, we found what you've said, the Gobekli Tepe, that completely shift our understanding not only of this but also of the early humanity origins, because right now you see 9600 and older BC, and you see these huge megalithic buildings. So now the argument that we do not have any other evidence that people at these remote eras could have built that, this argument is completely destroyed. And we found not only Gobekli Tepe, but in later years Karahan Tepe and plenty of other tepes that are taking the roots of civilization back. And I think even after the break, or maybe now, we can talk about that there are even archaeologists, Assyriologists, mainstream conservative historians are telling that even the new discoveries from December last year, that even a writing system may have appeared not in ancient Sumer 3000 BC, but at Gobekli Tepe 9000 BC, so 6000 years before it was originally considered to be. So Gobekli Tepe is very, very important. It's one of these smoking guns, both when it comes to, let's say, conservatively speaking, taking the roots of civilization back, but also for all the theories, ancient aliens, Atlantis, lost civilizations. It changed a lot when it comes to our understanding.
Do you think then that there are, like you mentioned, that there is some sort of tie between a Gobekli Tepe and Atlantis? Are there signs or signals or writings or teachings that have melded the two together?
The biggest connection is the dating, because it's almost the same as Plato is telling us about 9600 BC, 12,000 years ago, so this is the biggest key. The other big key is that at that time there was this Neolithic revolution, so the first time, allegedly, according to science, that humanity switched from a nomadic caveman lifestyle into sedentary one. It's even said that Gobekli Tepe was transitionary period, that even Gobekli Tepe was built by this caveman, not by farmers yet, but these are the biggest things, maybe not like textual or something like that. Another one would be that Gobekli Tepe was intentionally probably buried in the ground, so maybe another kind of connection with catastrophe that led to the sinking of Atlantis. There are plenty of different threads to that, but the biggest one is the dating, almost the same as Atlantis, the transition from people, from cavemen into farmers, and I think this is the biggest connection.
Very cool. Very cool. I think it's pretty fantastic that we have that connection going. What other societies from back then would have been melded together? If we're looking more west, would it have been the Mayans? Would it have been the Egyptians? What do you think?
No, this is like this period. It's very like 10,000, 9,000 BC. It's mostly in the when it comes to this Neolithic revolution, it mostly appeared in this area of Fertile Crescent, so mostly Middle East and parts of Egypt. But in the West, there were different cultures, and it weren't yet the Mayans or any kind of other civilizations. We are talking 6,000 years before the Sumerians, so there were plenty of what we consider archaeological cultures because they had culture but not civilization yet, so they were, but at that time it was the first place according to science that people switched from cavemen to farmers. So all over the world, in other places, people were mostly living as cavemen, as hunter-gatherers, not yet creating any kind of society. This is the original narrative, right, story.
Very interesting. I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Man, I can't believe we've flown through 1 hour with Aleksander Czeszkiewicz so far. You are incredible, young man. Absolutely incredible. And we're going to take some audience questions. We're going to get to more questions about lost civilizations and the mysteries of the universe coming up on Spaced Out Radio in hour number 2. Stay tuned, everybody. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, buddy. I'm going to put you in the background here for a little bit. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be back in about 5 minutes.
I will take a break too.
All right. This kid's smart. God, is she smart. Be right back. All right, I am back. Got about a minute 33 left. Let's get rid of that. And when there's Alex. All right. And you having fun, buddy?
Yes, yes. Also, haven't noticed 1 hour.
One more to go and it'll be fast.
It's sunrise right now here in Poland.
Yeah, it would be what, 6 a.m. there right now?
Yeah,
6:05?
6 a.m. Yes, 6:05.
Thank you tonight to Jorgensen and T-Bone for the super chats. Greatly appreciate your love and support, everybody. And let me just get Luscious Jewels up here. And where? All right, there we go. Now we're ready. Shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so make sure you check it on out. We'd greatly appreciate it. Get yourself some swag. You'll like it, I promise you. Here we go. Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. We are talking about lost civilizations and ancient mysteries with Aleksander Czeszkiewicz here on the show. But before we bring Alex back on, let us say hello to all of you listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. And we have 2 new Patreon members, by the way. We're going to give them a shout out as Brian R. and Charlene W., our newest Patreon members. Thank you for your love. And we are going to continue on with the Desert Clam, setting the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hebdoma Daily. Hebdoma Daily is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring in Alex Czeszkiewicz. His website is Czeszkiewicz, which is spelled C-Z-E-S-Z-K-I-E-W-C-Z. Czeszkiewicz Global. Now, I say Z because I'm Canadian. Z for our American friends. Okay. CzeszkiewiczGlobal.com. Alex, thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Thanks for having me on too. Having really fun today.
Do you also look into biblical mysteries?
Yes, a lot, of course. We mentioned already the Nephilim, the stuff like that. I actually started, I've said, studying at my local university, and because I have this specialization, personal schedule about ancient Middle East and ancient religions and stuff like that, I will be having like specialization in the Bible next year, so I'm very looking forward to that.
Where do you think Noah's Ark is located?
It's a very interesting question, but is it still located? This is the question. That are there any kinds of remnants? Because there are plenty of people on the internet, both on the entire world, but also here in Poland, we had a few people who are claiming to have visited the Noah's Ark nearby the famous Mount Ararat mentioned in the Bible. But actually, they took some photos of that, and it looked like some kind of old wood, some kind of inner sections of the ark, but it's a little bit fishy for me because they're showing us the interior, which but why only interior? Why not show us from the outside picture of the true ark? So there are plenty of controversies about this kind of discoveries of the Ark of Noah. Some of them have been debunked over the years, and I think that we haven't yet found the ultimate Noah's Ark when it comes to physical remnants, if they even survived all of these millennia. But when it comes to the location, it's not only the Bible is actually a copy, and we see it linguistically that it is a copy from older Mesopotamian sources, Sumerian, Akkadian, but in most of these sources, just as in the Bible, it's mostly the mountains near the Ararat, near the Zagros Mountains, so such locations, mountainous areas of the Middle East.
So you don't believe it is on Mount Ararat then?
I don't believe we have final evidence that it is there, and most of the people who are claiming to have seen it haven't provided us with the ultimate evidence, but I do not deny it. I just say that it's inconclusive as for the moment.
What other mysteries of this beautiful universe really captivate you?
All of the entire universe, cosmos, cosmology, spirituality, even metaphysics, meta from Greek beyond, so beyond physics. Because again, it was what we've been talking about, science. I always loved like history of science, philosophy of science, and it's about philosophy of science that right now we think, okay, physics is describing the laws of the universe, etc., but physics and science altogether, so biology, chemistry, history included, is only about the material world, the physical world, natural world, that it is often called. And I think that there may be things that are unnatural, supernatural, as it is often called. So I'm into all of this mysteries, even what is beyond spirituality and stuff like that. So I don't know what thread do you want me to take with, with this
anything. Do you think aliens built the pyramids in Egypt?
Huh. My personal opinion on aliens, especially ancient aliens, based on actually a few good evidence, is that these aliens were not physical aliens, grays or something like that, but that these aliens were non-physical in nature, just like dimensions of angels and demons, spirit beings. Maybe they communicated in a non-physical way with humans, and we see that with plenty of stories all over the world that these famous gods, famous Anunnaki, are not to a large extent physical beings, like huge beings with authority, but very often they are like spirits. And for instance, in the Epic of Atrahasis, there is this great Anunnaki god Enki who wants to warn Atrahasis of the famous flood that was later to be copied as the Noah's flood version, but he cannot show up to Atrahasis in flesh. He is not coming to Atrahasis with his authority as the great Anunnaki god and saying, oh, Atrahasis built an ark. No, he is coming to Atrahasis in his dream, and he is such a low authority that he needs to constantly repeat a mantra in his dream. So it's not like, oh, a single visit in a dream and, everything is right. No. He is visiting Atrahasis in a few dreams, few nights of dreaming, but also in a single dream he is repeating a mantra: build an ark, destroy your house, build an ark. So he's repeating that, which shows a very low authority in that. But when it comes to non-physical aliens, there are plenty of other evidence, like for instance famous ayahuasca, DMT stuff in the Amazon rainforest, that in plenty all over the world we hear such shamanic stories that some kind of spirits of nature taught humanity basics, that they were the teachers of mankind. And for instance, in the case of ayahuasca, which is of course this hallucinogenic soup or drink, and when you drink it you have different visions, different spiritual mystical experiences, but it is mentioned that these spiritual beings taught humans how to get this ayahuasca, and then because of this ayahuasca they can even more connect with the spirits and the spiritual realm. But you see in shamanic stories all over the world that there were some kind of teachers of of mankind and that they were non-physical. When it comes to maybe not exactly non-physical mentions of these teachers, all over the ancient world, famous civilizations like Egypt, Sumer, India, we have tons of mentions of similar teachers of mankind, teaching even the basics of being a human being, because it's mentioned that these teachers are meeting humans that are cannibals and are so primitive that they're like, again, like animals, just as in the case of Atlanteans, which was their fall. So my opinion is that they were non-physical entities, and when it comes to the pyramids, maybe they assisted in this way humans, but I don't think that physical aliens came to Earth and built the pyramids.
So do you think that there was some sort of special science that built the pyramids that we just don't know about?
Yeah, most probably, because when we take a look at how many blocks there are in the pyramid, there are different estimations. The most often quoted is 2,300,000 blocks, but let's say conservative ones are 1 million something blocks. But when you divide that, let's say approximately 20 years that allegedly the pyramids were built during, a single pyramid was built during this period, when you calculate that, you either have 2.5 minutes between cutting block, transporting it miles, and putting in a particular place in the Great Pyramid. So one block each 2.5 minutes, or maybe in this conservative estimate about 9 minutes, which is impossible. And I think right now, even when I'm studying history, it is a common consensus that we do not know how the pyramids were built. At least we do not know yet how they were built. So I think that for sure there was something going on there that may be considered such secret science.
I often bring up in the building of the pyramids, if you look at the mystery of the Coral Castle in Florida, where Lead Skeleton, he built this and he had tarps and bed sheets covering up how he was moving 1, 2, 3, 4, 10-ton pieces of coral from one location to another as a single person in that field. And he wasn't a big man either. I mean, and yet we still haven't figured out the science behind that. So there has to be some sort of mystery science that we haven't figured out yet.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree. As I said, there's so much potential when it comes both our history, both our science, both our universe. Actually, I'm very often not in this position, oh, you need to believe in Atlantis and lost civilizations. No, I want to show the possibilities, that the possibilities are huge, that there is a huge potential of the unknown to be discovered in all areas of our lives.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Let's get to an audience question here, because they are starting to build up.
Let's go.
Jose is asking, do you and your family believe in UFOs?
I won't consider it believing, but I think we are open to UFOs. That, yeah, maybe they are real, but not like huge, strong believers in them.
What would you do if you saw one?
I haven't yet, but if I saw one, I would consider it. That I'm considering that, as I've said, I'm open that UFOs are real, but I haven't experienced them. My opinion is also that these may be, again, from one perspective, maybe physical craft made here on Earth, but very, very advanced, like the stealth bombers or something, but even more advanced than that. But on the other hand, I think that these experiences of the UFO may also be of spiritual nature, of non-physical nature, even if they appear physical, that you can even touch them. And we have plenty of examples from, let's say, spiritual traditions that such things can be even more real than the material world of the five senses that we have in our bodies. And even sometimes, probably plenty of us experience that, at least I experienced that sometimes there are particular dreams in which your senses are more heightened than in reality. So it is even more like, I don't know, touch or seeing something. And there are spiritual traditions all over the world saying similar things, or out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, saying that when you have out-of-body experience or when you die, you actually have even more heightened all of these senses. So I think there may be, again, just as in the case of the teachers of mankind and ancient aliens, a non-physical spiritual component to the UFO. So I'm very open, but I'm not like a firm believer that yes, this is a particular this. I'm just open for possibility that this may be that, this may be that, and I don't know. The more I learn, the more I see how little I or any kind of humans know.
Another question from our audience. Let's go to Jules here. Do you have any interest in the prehistoric earthworks of North America?
Haven't researched them very extensively personally, but I think they are of interest when it comes to all my work, but just haven't yet gone into these. This may not be also such like big smoking guns as the famous pyramids or Gobekli Tepe. These are like much more bigger in importance as of today, because maybe we'll find something more when it comes to the earthworks of North America. But yes, they are of interest, but I haven't researched them much, unfortunately.
Next question. Do you think Homo sapiens had civilizations 130,000 years ago or even 230,000 years ago?
That's a great question, because as I've said, we think that even conservatively that we diverge as Homo sapiens from hominids about 500,000 years ago or 300,000 years ago. So I think that civilization 130,000 or 230 or in any kind of other, because these are huge spans of times. Our civilization, including from ancient Sumer, is about 5,000 years ago. And here we're talking about hundreds of thousands of years. I think it's very, very possible that there were civilizations during these time spans. We do not have evidence, we have about non-evidence from, unfortunately, this time spans when it comes to civilization or advanced culture. But personally, I think that it's completely possible that there have been civilizations in these time spans.
Let's go to Caps here. Do you believe the military killed a red-headed giant in Afghanistan?
I've heard this story, but also other similar stories. I don't know, haven't been there, but I think it's still possible because, for instance, during the medieval times when the Mongols were conquering all the world from Asia to Europe, they encountered something similar, maybe not to giants specifically, but something similar to other hominids, I would say, like Neanderthals or something, like 500 years ago. So I think that it's very possible that some kind of giant was still alive during the times that they allegedly killed it in Afghanistan, but I do not know if this story is real or not. It sounds to some extent real, maybe there are some flaws in it, but haven't been there, haven't seen the killing of this giant, so I'm very open to that.
I'm open to the story. I'm still not sure if I believe that one. And the reason why is I got a buddy of mine who did 4 tours in Afghanistan and Iraq as an Army Ranger in the US. And I asked him about this story, if he had ever heard about it, like just through the ranks, because it was allegedly Army Rangers that shot and found this and shot and killed it. And he had never heard the story. And it would have been during that time when he was there. So it was interesting, but I mean, if it could be one of those stories where he wasn't on the mission, so it was kept secret. Mm-hmm. So there is that too. Let's move on here. Let's go to Jenny. I love this question from Jenny. Do any of the lost worlds have giants?
Oh, all over the world we find mentions of giants, not only, like even in the recent ones I've mentioned, these Mongols, maybe these were not giants, but some kind of hominids, but, Vespucci and other allegedly met giants in the New World, 500, less than 500 years ago. There are plenty of stories in the ancient times. We have the famous Nephilim of the Bible. We have giants in the Middle East mentions there. In Egypt, we see that some people are shown, at least depicted, maybe not in tradition like speaking about tags, but they are depicted as much bigger than others. So the giants are found these stories all over the world, but when it comes to maybe Atlantean giants, we do not have like direct evidence that that would connect giants to Atlantis. Maybe Edgar Casey and psychic stuff would connect that. They mention about hybrids and things like that. So maybe they were also giants. But I can say because second question about giants, I can talk about my own theory that connects it all about giants, because right now we are, let's say, the only advanced human species, only Homo sapiens sapiens. There are no other hominids, but it's the only time in the history of our species that we are alone. And we know very well that we coexisted with Neanderthals 20, 30,000 years ago, but actually we coexisted at some point between about 80,000 BC and 100,000 something BC. We coexisted as anatomically modern humans, so our species coexisted with at least 5 other hominid species, and we find them everyday new ones. So at least 5 other hominid species, including the famous Neanderthals, but also Homo denisovans, also Homo florescensis, which was 1 meter tall hobbit, so a small Lilliput, a small person. So if, let's say, less than 100,000 years ago we coexisted with 1 meter tall beings, I think it's very possible that at some point during our past we also coexisted with giants 3 meters tall or a little bit more than that. It's very, very possible. So this is my theory, that these giants may be just as Neanderthals were a little bit different to humans, but we're still connected. So I think there is a huge, even conservatively, scientifically speaking, huge possibility for giants. If we are right now discovering more and more hominid species, I think the Homo florescensis was found 15 to 20 years ago only. So imagine maybe in 50 years we will find Homo gigantis, and we will find finally these giants, and they will be revealed to the public, because of course there were conspiracies about giants, evidence for giants being hidden by Smithsonian or others. But I think it's really possible that there were other hominids like giants. So I would connect that in the times of lost civilizations like Atlantis and others, so at least 12,000 years ago and before that, there may have been other hominid species still living on Earth with us as human beings.
Why do you think we haven't found more skeletal remains of these giants?
Because it's a great question, but even when it comes to other hominids that we know, like Australopithecus, Homo denisovans and others, what we find is, like, in some cases 1 or 2 skeletons, because everything is decomposing, everything is degrading. I think from 1 hominid, the only skeleton that was in 40 or 60%, 40 to 60% survived of it, was because this person died at a very young age and he went into some kind of mud, and he died in this mud. He probably broke his leg or something, he couldn't get out of this mud, and of course this mud preserved it much more than if he died normally. So we do not have plenty of skeletons of any kind of species of hominids, like in thousands or something. Maybe Neanderthals we have more, and Homo sapiens of course, but it's just we do not have evidence. This is the biggest smoking gun about our past lost civilizations, giants, and any kind of lost worlds, lost realms, is that what we know is just less than 1% of everything, or maybe even 0.001%. So I think that maybe we found them, and maybe there was just Smithsonian or any kind of other cover-up. So one theory. Another theory is that we haven't found them yet because we find plenty of new species in the recent years. We find them almost, as I said, I think this year in January we find another one in China, hominid species. So I think it's only a matter of time that we'll find them, and we haven't, because we haven't dug the entire planet. Things are decomposing really fast, and only in special conditions like airtight layers, like in oil or in mud, things are being preserved for much longer periods of time, and in casual conditions lots of things are being destroyed.
All right. I think we got time for one more question here. And we will go to T-Bone, who is asking, what is your opinion of the underground of the pyramids of Giza?
I do not 100%. I'm not 100% confident in what was being shown us. I think it was last year with all of this miles deep underground thing. I'm open but also skeptical. But I think it's common knowledge that there are huge things underground in Giza. We have, for instance, a famous Osiris shaft that is a shaft on the Giza plateau, so not directly under the pyramid, but nearby the pyramid, that goes straight in rock, straight down for tens of meters. Then there is a first level, and in this level we have a few coffins there, huge megalithic coffins. And then we have another huge shaft down, coming back like tens of meters below ground. And we have a few such underground things on the Giza plateau, so I think it's very, very possible that there are huge, also bigger things like this famous SAR
Right.
scan research showing us this mile-long stuff. But I also think, because it was also AI interpreted, so data was interpreted by the AI, so I'm a little bit skeptical on this
Hold
side.
that.
I think
Hold
there's...
that thought. We're going to go to break here.
Okay.
We have Alex Czeszkiewicz for another half hour on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear and we are open mic'd here.
Yeah, so many things to talk about.
Lots to talk about. You're doing great, by the way. Absolutely
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really enjoying, and sometimes I'm going maybe too fast, maybe, but you know, I'm going with the flow, whatever is
Oh, man, you're doing fantastic.
being on my thoughts.
You are doing fantastic.
Awesome, awesome. If anyone likes such topics, don't forget to get my book. Deja Vu Has Everything Already Been. It's full of sources, and I dive into even like history and all of the stuff about technology of the pyramids, like pyramid energy, stuff about the earth, Vimanas, you know, plenty of different quotes, sources. It's actually pretty big when it comes to books. So if you want, don't forget to get it. It's the best way also to support my work, so you can get it on Amazon's in plenty of places all over the world.
Right. Missing enemy. Chefist, where have you been? Where have you been hiding? You and your beautiful mustache. It has been like about a year and a half, 2 years, maybe longer since you've been in our chat room. Good stuff. That makes me happy. Here. Man, can't believe how fast this show is going. Great. All right. I'm all excited. During the break, I've booked my latest beard trim for Wednesday. So that's going to be good. Got to make sure I'm looking pretty for San Francisco next week in UFO Con. Blue Cruz, how you doing? We've got about a minute here, Alex.
Okay.
You going to go to bed after this or what?
Probably no. The sun is shining so much. I'll go with my dog or something. Actually, such conversations always energize me, so.
Beautiful. Thank you tonight to our super chatters. We got Matthew. We got Caps with a hat trick. We got T-Bone ×2. And Jorgensen. Thank you for the love, guys. It really helps what we do on a nightly basis here on Spaced Out Radio. Don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check that on out. And go check out cariboucon.com for your tickets for a great event right here in my hometown coming this fall. Here we go. We're into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We got a great guest with us, Aleksander Czeszkiewicz. We are talking about ancient mysteries, lost cities, lost temples, and more. We are into audience questions right now. You ready for more there, Alex?
Of course. Waiting.
Good. Let's go to Jules here. Do you have any more theories why North America has earthworks that seem more primitive than the continents, that the pyramids and megalithic complexes?
I would say that large parts of North America were under ice sheets for tens of thousands of years, and it may be because of that. The same here in Europe. We have maybe pre-ice age, like from 40,000 years ago or something, some kind of megalith evidence. But here in Poland, we also do not have like a very, very old prehistoric, huge things and stuff like that. And entire Northern Europe, entire North America was covered for many tens of thousands of years by ice sheets. So I think that's why during, let's say, the famous Atlantean times, during which actually we see Gobekli Tepe and other megaliths were built during this time period. I think that that's why in most cases we do not have much from North America. The same, it's actually the biggest questions from the skeptic that, we alternative researchers are searching the worst possible places like Sahara, which is very hard, like Atlantic Ocean or like the Amazon. Why are we not searching in casual places? Because casual places were under huge miles of ice sheets, so nothing was going on, let's say 12 or 15,000 years ago there. So we have the same thing here in Poland and in Northern Europe, that we do not have much from this period, nothing crazy, nothing advanced, even no people, because there were ice sheets. I don't know exactly where the ice sheets were in North America, because we should check it out to check if these mounts are outside of this influence or inside. But I think mostly that's the reason why North America, in the northernmost parts especially, was not very good for people to live.
Let's move on. Let's go to T-Bone here. Alec, what is your opinion? Oh, we already asked that one. I apologize. Let's go to Carrie. Do you know anything about these caves that are supposedly in the Grand Canyon, that ancient Egyptian relics have been found in them?
Yeah, the only things I know are, of course, the legends and stories that they were found there, that right now you cannot go there. For many years you are for many years now you haven't been able to go there, but I do not know more than just these legends. There is no more info if you want to find some sources or something like that. There is no more info than these stories and legends you find online or in older newspapers. So I probably do not know much than casual people in these matters. But yes, there was the story that Egyptian stuff, including hieroglyphs, including mummies, were found in the Great Canyon. Then after that they closed it, they removed of course everything, and there have been even later stories of people illegally going there and finding that there are some kind of cave systems with maybe not these artifacts that were completely got from these places, but with some kinds of hieroglyphs, but do not know much outside of that.
Makes sense. All right, let's go to another one. This one comes from Candace. Do you have any ideas as to why so many of us connect with our past lives during the building of the pyramids?
I think that it may not be only the past life, let's say, of me or you during the building of the pyramids. I think it may be some kind of also collective memory of people building the pyramids, and either it was so traumatic building these pyramids, or maybe so heightened, elevated emotion states of consciousness that we are remembering that. I am of course into these topics that we had some past lives here and there, but I think that lots of memories may not be our own memories but just collective ones. Even with these stories of hypnotic regression to our past lives or before we were born here, there is these stories that very often souls are actually replaying some other lifetimes, not directly of them but of other people, to learn. So let's say, oh, I want to right now play this level and see how it was in ancient Egypt or in any other kind of other places or during the building of the pyramids. Let's not reincarnate there, but let's be in this avatar and let's feel everything this person was feeling during this lifetime. So when it comes to why so many people, maybe also so many people were building that, so many souls have this memory, but I also think it may be a collective memory, not directly from our own past life.
So you are a believer in reincarnation and the idea that we have lived multiple lives throughout history.
I'm a believer that there is something beyond our current lifetime, but I'm not 100% sure if it is called reincarnation or something, because as I said, what if these are just some kind of collective memories of others? So I'm open, but I'm also trying to be skeptical.
T-Bone is asking, what do you think is under Antarctica?
We know that Antarctica at some point, at least a few points during the past, was lush green, there were jungles there and things like that. So there are things for sure under Antarctica, natural ones from these previous periods. There are legends that the Nazis went at the end of the World War, and these legends have some claims in the historical sources that they at least tried to went there. And they believed, of course, that there was something there, something ancient when it comes to civilization. There are also some structures like this famous pyramid. Maybe it's man-made, maybe it's natural. There are plenty of mysteries, but I don't know exactly what is hiding under the Antarctic. I do not think, from what I know geologically speaking, that it was a place, a very important thing during the Atlantean times, but maybe before that, maybe after that, maybe some kind of secret stuff going on there, but I'm not that it was like the Atlantean stuff or something.
I want to get, before we get to any more audience questions here, I kind of want to get into a lot of the mysteries of technology, because, there have been relic artifacts that have been carbon dated for so long, and yet they look very, very real as if they were from today. The one that really catches my mind is that little Swiss watch. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, or something that looks like a Nokia cell phone that it was carbon dated tens of thousands of years ago. and yet it looks relatively to what we have. What do you think that is?
Some of these artifacts were debunked, maybe not all, and I think that there were plenty of people who tried to create this fake old artifact, because when it comes to these things that look like the modern ones exactly, that would be, the red flag, because in the past it was probably, even if it was, let's say, the same technology, it could have been different. Or maybe it was some kind of, I don't know, time travel, or maybe it was some kind of glitch in the reality, something like that. Okay, there is a possibility like that, but it's also about the carbon dating, that most of the datings are not good for particular things. The carbon dating is not for millions of years, as some people claim, and plenty of these things were found, for instance, in coal, so it's another red flag. Carbon dating is just for the last few thousand years, but there are other elements that are having spans of millions of years. But the problem is that even small things like radiation rays coming from the sun, like solar winds, can completely change our datings. Not destruction, but detonations of nuclear plants can also change the dating. So the dating is another problem in itself. But when it comes to these artifacts, I think it's a very red flag if they look similar to, like, exactly, oh, this is model like the modern one, because it may be then faked into being older. Some things were debunked as that, because I think that if it was really million-year old or hundreds of thousands-year old technology, it would be different. Maybe a watch, but one that cannot be found in the modern world. But as I said, maybe there are also other stuff like glitches in the matrix, time travel, but there have been anomalous artifacts like that have not been debunked. Of course, it doesn't mean that all of them were debunked. Some of them may have been real, but as I've said, even with this dating stuff, they may not be millions of years old, but maybe just tens of thousands of years old, so it's another matter.
I always wondered that. I think that is just something that is very, very intriguing. I mean, it's almost like some of these objects have traveled back in time in order to do that. No pun intended for the watch or even the cell phone, but it's absolutely weird. Like, do you believe, this may be off topic a little bit, but do you believe maybe that there are portals out there that can bend time and space?
Yeah, I think it's possible. We know even from physics that there are things that can bend time and space with gravity or something. And I think even this idea of portals or some kind of stargates like that, it's there in ancient knowledge of our ancestors. They even said, for instance, when it comes to the pyramids or the soul after we die, in ancient Egypt it was believed that part of the soul, not the entire one, because Egyptians were more advanced, that there was this baka, another part of the soul, but one part of the soul was going to the Orion belt, and there was this target at the Orion belt, and it went outside, let's say, of the material realm. Similar stories can be found in Native Americans, which is very interesting that they also said that it's the same place. So I think it has some ground. I don't know, though, I haven't experienced it, of course, myself, but I think it's totally possible.
What's your opinion then, changing topics again, of the Nazca Lines in Peru?
I think that, yeah, the question is, how they, being on the ground, build that without looking at it from, let's say, above. So this is the biggest question. And also some of this, because, okay, Nazca Lines, there are some kind of animal species there, but there are also geometric stuff there, which is, I think, the most intriguing. These geometric figures that are really strange and may have encoded something in them. Maybe there were some kind of thing. If you look from the space, you see this like QR code of the modern times. Okay, here is the QR code of the Earth or something. But I think that the Nazca Lines do not have such an importance in comparison to what we've been talking about, pyramids, megaliths, and stuff like that. And I do not think that all of them, these animals and other, were used for, as some people suggest, travel, space travel, or just aviation. But I think some of these geometric ones may hold a bigger secret.
I often wonder about that because, when you look at the giant alien that is there or some of the other markings that they have created, you know, that took a lot of time and a lot of geometry in order to accomplish that. Now, we don't know how long it took them to make one of these, and they're still discovering them to this day.
Yeah, yes.
Do you think that they were about communicating with the gods above, or do you think that they were there to tell a story over their valley?
I think more of the second, that it was some kind of story or some kind of memory for future generations. I don't think it was specifically for the gods, but maybe, we have in other, all over the world, people were doing crazy things, crazy monuments, stuff for gods. So I think that it could have been both of this. So maybe a single one or two of them were for some kind of god offerings, god communication, but then all of that could have been for future generations. Or maybe each generation created their own single symbol in the Nazca Plateau.
Out of all of it, what is your favorite topic?
Favorite topic. I think that it's not only history. The history is like the most researched one by me, but when it comes, I think the favorite topic is the entire universe. Again, metaphysics, as I've said. The science is working only when it comes to the material world, and it's okay if we are at the end of today. It's the most, I think, important thing for people listening to us to understand that all of science, physics, chemistry, history only applies to what is called the natural, rational world, which means that any kind of supernatural things, spiritual things are outside of the scope of the domain of application of science. So we can say that science is something like a tool for us to understand the material world. So let's say the matter, let's say the physical part of our bodies and so on. But everything supernatural, everything spiritual is outside of the scope of science. And it's very important in modern times because skeptics want to debunk spiritual beliefs and stuff like that, while science is outside. It is like these things are outside of the domain of application of science. It's like physics versus biology. Physics is applied to all of the biological things, but biology is not applied to all the physical things. So on the bigger level, science is only applied, it's called naturalism, that everything natural needs to have natural causes, which means there is nothing supernatural. So science strips the world of everything outside of matter. And also another thing, rationalism. Science believes that everything should be rational and should be understood in rational terms. So everything irrational, like spiritual experiences, mystical experiences, crazy theories, are actually non-existent according to science, but are outside of the domain of science. So I think this is the biggest shift in understanding, a little bit of duality, but duality created by the science itself, that plenty of the things that we are talking about and plenty of things that are people want to debunk these theories and say, oh, this is pseudoscience or something. These are things outside of the realm of science. And there is probably much more to this world. There is much more potential to everything, even the material world. We haven't figured out everything yet, but there are so many mysteries that I think everyone of us should have open mind and look into this stuff, because the more, it's paradoxical, but the more you look, the more you see how little we know about the world, about history. So this is the most important thing, because then you cannot be that easily manipulated into the official narrative. Here, a little bit conspiracy going on, but if you see how little we as humans know, you see how, all these textbooks, it's like 1 or less than 1% of everything that's been in the history or in physics or in chemistry. And if you see that, you are not that easy to be manipulated by ideologies, by people who want to rule other people basically, and want to let us believe that we are just biological machines, nothing more, there is no meaning to life and stuff like that, only evolution.
Yet most of the ancient civilizations really stressed about praying and and worshiping the sky gods that were descending from the heavens, whether it was angels or, what we would consider UFOs or anything along those lines. I know that gets more into the ancient alien theory, but it is true. Like every civilization just seemed to have a love for anything coming from the stars or the heavens.
Yeah, it's even some psychologists say, like modern casual ones, that people in the past were thinking differently. We're thinking more in mythological terms. That right now we are very solidly grounded in this physical reality. I, maybe psychic to some extent, had some spiritual experiences myself, but I'm not seeing ghosts and stuff all the time while I'm sitting talking with you. But psychologists found by analyzing ancient stories and stuff like that, that people were much more in tune with the world, nature, and that the gods, spirits, and everything was like their everyday life. It was like, I'm sitting here with you and I see some kind of ghost, or at least energies of the place, or I see some kind of energy talking to you. So this was how the ancients were seeing the world. And even in, for instance, Hindu tradition is, I think, the best explanation for that, that there are this, again, cycles of time. Deja vu has everything already been all about not only history, but also cyclical history, repeated history, and cyclical time. And in the Hindu system called the Yugas, there is a mention that there are eras, epochs in which humans are more spiritual, and there are epochs in which they are more material. And maybe, the fall of Atlantis was with this coming into being more animalistic, more material from being very high spirituality. So I think as in this system that there are epochs, at some points we are more in tune with nature, in tune with the non-physical world, spiritual world, but I think it exists. I had some experiences that I have no doubt that there is much more to life than just material body. And I think, again, a little bit conspiracy theory, that there is right now this agenda going on that wants to strip us away from spirituality to control us, because okay, we are just biological machines, there is no meaning to life, so it's very easy for them to control us. So that's my theory about the history and spirituality.
All right, we got about 3 minutes to go here, before we have to say goodnight to you in a show that has literally flown on by tonight. What is your message for anybody looking into these ancient mysteries?
I think start with a skeptical mind, but not skeptical in the sense, be a proponent of the mainstream narrative, but start with, I know nothing, with a blank space. I want to know the truth, and go and research everything, both the mainstream narrative, the skeptics, the bankers, and all of the alternative people, alternative theories, conspiracy theories, but also always go to the sources, because you will see, just as I've said, my book Deja Vu has everything already been, that most of the modern, what we call conspiracy theories, have been already in ancient Sumer, ancient Greece, and it's been thousands of years of the same thinking about different conspiracies, about different kinds of lost civilizations. So always go to the sources, because you will find that almost everything has already been, and at this point that we are right now as humanity, it's nothing new under the sun. Maybe better technology or something, but nothing when it comes to the biggest questions about the entire universe.
I think that nails it on the head, because we really need to keep an open mind, because, eventually we may have that technology that is able to carbon date, maybe in a different terminology or different scientific method, what these structures are, where they are buried, maybe read maps a little bit more, or read ancient Hebrew a little bit better. I mean, it's all down the road, isn't it?
Yes, as I say, there is so much potential, and each day we're having more and more discoveries pushing dates of civilization and humanity back. So never be that, there is nothing to be discovered about history. No, there are so many things, both about our history, about our universe. So always be open-minded, because if you have open mind, you can come with more ideas, more technologies, more inventions, that if you are, there is nothing to find, it's not worthy, or something like that.
How do you think AI will affect that? We got about a minute to go.
I think AI just helps on the rational level or of storing information. Like maybe I don't remember all the books and everything I've read, and I don't have time to read it all, so AI can help us with that. But I don't think it has like such creative capabilities to create and invent new stuff. It's just a tool that helps us, helps our ideas to be created, just as I can take a tool and create something with this tool, like a sculpture or something.
My friend, it has been a great run having you on Spaced Out Radio tonight. What a pleasure to get to know you, your knowledge. It is very, very impressive what you've accomplished so far.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it. It went so quickly. Awesome.
Well, when you have some new information, you bring it right back here, okay?
Okay.
That sounds great. Aleksander Czeszkiewicz, everybody, on Spaced Out Radio. We thank him for getting up early in Poland to do this show. Swamp Dweller and Josh Rutledge are next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Excellent job, my friend. Thank you for getting up early for us.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it. Like 2 hours, and it's like half an hour or something. Yes, really cool. Really cool. If you want, we can even without like new stuff, but other topics we can explore, even if you have
Absolutely.
some ideas. So
We'll look to bring you on a little bit later this year.
awesome.
All right, my friend.
All
Take
the
care.
best.
Good night or good morning. See you later. He's a nice kid. Absolutely nice kid. I like that kid. Good job, Dirty Filth. Good job. I'll be right back. Josh.
Dave.
We have a special guest joining us for a few minutes.
Okay.
It is Lorian Fenton. She turned her mic on.
Hello.
There
Can you
she
hear me
is.
okay?
We can hear you fine.
Good, because I'm on a weird headset here at the office. I scrounged it from my boss's desk. Oh, man.
Good stuff.
Okay, I'm turning my... Do you want me to turn my mic volume up or down?
Bring it up a bit if you can.
Bring it up a bit. Okay. Tell me when it's good. I'll keep talking. So, have you got your airline ticket? When are you coming in?
I'm coming in Friday morning.
Okay, perfect.
I'll be there Friday morning, and then I leave Monday morning.
Perfect. It's all good.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lee's not in tonight?
No, Lee isn't feeling good tonight.
Oh, darn. Okay, that's okay. Not that I don't like Josh, but Lee and I had already talked about what we were going to kind of talk about tonight. So that's okay.
He got sick.
It's all right.
Yeah. But look at Josh's beard. Look how nice that is.
Very nicely trimmed. What can I say?
I'm even getting my beard trimmed before flying down.
Oh, no, don't do that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, go ahead.
It'll make it easier to go through security, probably.
Yeah. Always is. Where is my email? Hold on. We got 27 seconds here.
Always reminds me of the joke, what's behind Chuck Norris's beard?
Right?
Another fist.
15 seconds. I'm not going to play Swamp Dweller tonight. We're just going to go straight to you guys.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Here we go for the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to get into the UFO news coming on up. Josh Rutledge filling in for Lee Strauss. We have special guest Lorian Fenton here as well, who has UFO Con 2026 coming up next weekend, or this coming weekend, in San Francisco, California. CAUFOcon.com is the website. I want to see you there. I'm going to be there. I want to see you all there. I really do. Hey, I want to say hello to all of you listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What is this? Hebdomadali. There we go. Hebdomadali is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio presents a UFO report. The UFO wizard makes his presence known. Just ready to go.
All right, Josh Rutledge filling in for Lee Strauss tonight. We have special guest Lorian Fenton here. And Lorian, are you all ready for UFO Con?
I'm getting ready. I'm packing already. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I'm making badges. What else am I doing? Oh gosh, calling the winery and the whiskey guys and getting everybody set up for their alcohol, which you have to have if you come to UFO Con. Anyhow, yeah, we're getting ready. We're getting ready.
Good. I will be there at around 11:30 in the morning. I've landed about 10:30. By the time you get through everything and get the Uber over to the hotel, be about 11:15, 11:30. I am so excited for this year's event.
Yeah, well, don't spend your money on the Uber. Grab the shuttle.
It's quicker if I go with the Uber.
I know, but you'd have to pay for it.
I know.
Well, yeah, it's up to you. You do
Look.
whatever you want. Uber's always fun.
All I'm saying, Lorian, is where I live, we just got a McDonald's, okay? There is
Oh my
no Uber
God.
here. There is no Uber here. So if I get a chance to Uber, I'm going to. I might even freak myself out and get one of those driverless cabs.
Oh, yeah, those are interesting. I saw one in San Francisco the other day. It really freaked me out.
Yeah. Have you been in one of those yet, Josh?
I have not. We have Waymo here in Phoenix, which
Yeah,
occasionally,
that's what we have in San Francisco too.
yeah, which occasionally ends up in the news is like doing things like driving through an active police scene or, stopping on a railroad tracks for no reason. But no, my kids, we see them all the time on the road, and I think one day I might surprise my kids with a special little ride in a Waymo to some event we're going to or something. So,
Oh, that just scares me. It absolutely scares me.
Yeah, you can't get me in one of those things.
There is a lot of UFO news. And Lorian, we do want to talk about the Phoenix Lights. It's the 29th anniversary of the Phoenix Lights. But before we get to that, you wanted to make a comment. And the reason why you wanted to come on was because you wanted to discuss something in the UFO world.
Yeah, I just had a meltdown this week and I called Dave and I called Lee and I said, I've got to talk about this because on Friday night, because I just can't handle this. I watched the American Alchemy with Eric Weinstein and Eric Davis, and I just about went through the ceiling because Eric Weinstein brought up the fact that Eric Davis doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and neither do any of the other people in ufology that we have been following all these years. And I was like, oh my God, so somebody's finally calling them out like I've been doing it for the last 20 years. So I was just like, what the hell? How did they even let this happen? Now, what I find is fascinating about the whole thing, if you break it down into pieces, first of all, we've got Jesse, who is more than likely what, as I called David, and we talk about this, it's the fact that there are certain podcasters out there that are now in control of the narrative around ufology. And Jesse is one of them. And he brings on full well knowing that Eric Weinstein is just going to poop all over Eric Davis. Full well ahead of time. I mean, anybody could see that coming, that would have half a brain cell. Because I know that Eric Davis can't really talk about some of the stuff he's done, but some of it he can. And he did go full Monty on us about Roswell. If you guys heard the interview, he comes right out and says, yes, there was a crash at Roswell, and yes, we have bodies. He basically said that. He kind of alluded to the same thing in the Disclosure movie recently. So I wasn't too upset about that when he finally, just said it. And Eric Weinstein, see, my problem with the whole interview is this, folks. I've got one guy sitting here saying, yeah, it's all real, but I don't even know how it all works, and I can't figure it out, and neither can Hal Puthoff, and neither can all the guys that have gone before me, and we don't know what the hell's going on. And we're just sitting here, doing theoretical physics, and we can't make anything work. We can't make the ships fly. We can't do anything. And then Eric Weinstein, in turn, says, well, you guys are a bunch of buffoons. We're the physicists. Because there's no physicist involved. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I asked that question many, many years ago of certain people that I can't tell you guys about that were related to my buddy Tron. Tron introduced me to some people. Now that he's dead, I guess I can tell you guys about this, but he introduced me to some people that were working in the space program. And because it's a long story, but Tron was involved with the Challenger and a bunch of other things. Long story short, he introduced me to two gentlemen that I think were involved with the secret space program through Lockheed Martin and all of the other guys down near Pasadena. And they can't tell me much of what they did or how they did it, but I did get one of them to admit that, yes, they have faster than light propulsion systems. And that was about as far as I got. And Tron had eluded to me over the years, because you guys got to realize something. All these guys are afraid that their families are going to be killed or they're not going to get a pension. So they're never going to talk. I mean, even Tron told me that the very first day I met him. He goes, "You're never going to get anything out of me of any substance unless I infer to it or you ask the right questions." And I can answer them. So that's kind of where I was at with this. But one thing I did get out of these two guys is simply the fact that they felt that there were not very many good people in ufology land, like the Hal Puthoffs and those people, that actually knew how to do the physics around the UFO problem. And when he said UFO problem, what he meant was, a crash ship and we're doing, what do they call it? Reverse engineering on it or whatever to get it to fly. They had no clue on what they were doing, and nobody does. And here I'm watching Eric Weinstein now. I talked to those guys like 15 years ago, right? So here's Eric Weinstein 15 years later taking Eric Davis to the woodshed about the fact that these guys are just flying around by the seat of their pants. They have no idea what they're doing. And I wanted to bring it up with Dave tonight and to Lee, but now Josh, what do you think about that? Did you see the interview at all?
I didn't see the interview, but I have also raised similar questions, both on here with Dave and other places in the past. Like we give a lot of credibility to some of these folks that come forward as being insiders. I don't know that I would necessarily classify them as whistleblowers, but insiders.
Correct. Yeah.
We give them a lot of credibility. We give them a lot of leeway. We, for the most part of the community, we just accept blind acceptance that they know what they're talking about, that they've got the receipts, they just can't show us. And I think that, for the most part, I've always been a little hesitant to just blind accept someone who comes forward and says, "Hey, we've reversed engineered stuff." Because, at the end of the day, everybody in the Age of Disclosure documentary just talked about, for the most part, things that have already been talked about. It's really easy to come forward and say, yeah, this is real, but then provide nothing to support your position.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like I use this all the time. It's like the guys in the 90s who came forward, those two older guys who came forward in the 90s and said, "Hey, we're making all the crop circles. That's us. We do it with strings and boards." And they took a reporter out in the field and they showed them how they did it. It's really easy to claim something when the actual creator may not be willing to come forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Very good point. It was the wildest interview, you guys, I've ever seen. And I just was very upset about the whole thing because it really shows exactly what I've been saying for years now. And it's basically that who's really running the show here? Do we really know? And guess what? There's even a tie to Epstein in this whole thing. After the interview, Eric sits down with Jesse and they talk about the interview, and then he starts talking about the Epstein files in connection to the ufology world. And I've always said that the guys that are running the International Monetary Fund, and I put that in quotes because I don't know it's them, but they are out of Switzerland, and I believe that those are the people that are funding like the Epsteins of the world. And there were probably only one or two or three that I can figure out that were like Epstein, that were actually hiring a scientist off the books to do cloning and to do all kinds of crazy stuff. And now we have one of his victims, the one that's in South Africa, who's come out and said she saw UFOs on Epstein Island, and that she saw aliens down in the underground bunker there. So
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
weird.
oh, it's getting stranger by the day, you guys. I'm telling you. And
Lori and
go ahead.
I wanted to mention something to you and Josh. This week, I actually started making some phone calls, and I'm starting to put together a little piece here. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it, but just for my own personal knowledge right now that I could pass on to our audience, and that eventually when I get it. But I've actually been talking to some insiders in the last 5-6 days here regarding the whistleblowers and who is controlling who they can talk to and who they can't. And there are some names out there that I can't say right now, but there does seem to be a control mechanism on who many of these people can talk to right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And let me tell you guys something. Back in 2011, when or 10 or 11, when Stan Romanek gets a knock on his door, and there stands John Alexander, and then the next person is I think Eric Davis ends up there, and who all, I don't remember who all the players were, but suddenly everybody's on his doorstep, and they want to start doing testing, and they want to do this and they want to do that. And after kind of moving in on the weekends, the wife finally kicks him out. And the next thing you know, then they're making the movie. And then Stan is like told, well, because we can't control, they didn't say it outright, but basically the bottom line was this, folks: we can't control you anymore. So we're going to make your life a living hell. And that's what they did. They ruined the guy's life because he was uncontrollable. And then comes along Chris Bledsoe. And hey, I love Chris. I have no problem with him. I've known him since 2012 or whatever. And Chris starts getting the knocks at the door too. And the next thing you know, Jim Semivan's over for Thanksgiving dinner, and John Alexander's hanging out, and all these guys are hanging out, and everybody else gets pushed out of his life. The MUFON people aren't welcome anymore. Nobody else is welcome to come over there. It's just all these guys from the government. And then the next thing you know, Chris is a big star. So, and he's accepted them. And hey, they're nice. I mean, some of these guys are nice guys. I don't know them personally, so I can't really say about anybody else, but I've met John, and I like John, and I've met, I haven't met Jim, but Melinda has, and she likes him. So, I mean, I'm not saying these guys are bad. I'm just saying it's so weird that over the years, the people that knock on your door, if you play ball with them, if you're a major contactee, everything goes well in your life. And if you don't, the next thing you know, you're homeless. So I'm just kind of putting 2 and 2 together here. I mean, this has been a long trek. I've watched certain people over the years go through these same things with these guys. Most of them never end up talking about their experiences again. And I talk to them and I say, why won't you talk about it? Oh, I just can't. And I'm like, well, what's that all about? I think they've been threatened. So, I don't know, folks, but there's just many, many little weird coincidences. And I'm not blaming Jim or John or any of these guys. I'm just saying maybe there's a force behind all that we don't know about. They're just the messenger, for a much bigger cabal that I don't know about.
Well, that's what I'm hearing about the whistleblowers. Not all of them. Okay.
Right.
Like, say, for instance, like we had Whistling Mike on the other night. He's not a part of it. Jason Sands is not a part of that. But the most of them, are allegedly under contact of who they can and cannot speak to.
Exactly. Well, I could never get any single one of them except for Jason on my radio show. There's just no way. They won't talk to me.
Do you think it's a matter of if they go onto a show where the host is more apt to ask a off the wall question, that they might say something that has not been rehearsed?
Yeah, I believe that for sure. Or cleared by their NDAs or whatever the heck
Yeah.
they're. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Might they hint at, not necessarily come right out and say whatever, but might they hint at or provide some piece of information because a question was asked that hasn't been cleared? Kind of like
Exactly.
Dave, you and I were talking about, the Obama thing that happened, a few weeks back, that question would have gone through his team and been cleared. I would imagine that a lot of these, former government guys probably also have teams that get involved to clear certain questions to be asked.
Oh, absolutely.
From what I'm hearing, it is about safety of the narrative. Okay.
Oh, of course.
That's completely what it is.
And that brings us all the way back to the beginning of all this when Lou Elizondo steps in, and now the narrative is they're a threat. And that's where they went for 3 or 4 years. They're a threat. Now I don't know where they're going now. I still think that they are a threat is the main theme of the whole cabal. But it might be changing a little bit with the way the whistleblowers are actually talking about non-human and NHI in front of Congress. And I've heard, like I told you on the last time I was on, Dave, I heard Luna talk about other dimensional beings on a national television show, that she believes that the whistleblowers are all talking about these other dimensional beings and that we need to take it more seriously. So, who knows? I mean, I can't tell you what's actually going on, but it's kind of strange that one on the biggest podcasts we got out there around ufology, that we have one scientist pitted against another scientist, and that one scientist is the one that's not read in, and he's making the other guy look like a buffoon. So I just found it fascinating that he could do that, and then we didn't get any backlash from anybody, like, saying, I'm sorry, but you're not going to make our main guy, one of our main guys in ufology, look like an idiot. I don't know how this got by them. I don't know what they were thinking, but it really takes away my faith in Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, and the gang.
Well, it takes away my faith, if I had any, in some of the podcasters. Like, I don't know why, but for some reason, my Reddit feed has been filled with a lot of stuff around Jesse Michaels and some of the kind of shady things apparently that he's been up to, such as, offering a reward for somebody who can recreate some scientific thing in a vacuum, but then when it was done, not paying those people. One of his moderators on his Discord has recently, kind of stepped away from American Alchemy because of that. I just, it again, just like non-UFO related news, like, is the narrative being controlled by some, shadowy figure or entity or organization? And our podcasters like Jesse Michaels, who have, a pretty strong financial backing from some folks, are they being directed to control?
Oh, you'd have to be, or you couldn't be giving that kind of money to run a show like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine that, well, okay. I will say the Sean Ryan show doesn't seem as contrived to me as the rest of them. I think Sean probably hasn't sold out to anybody. I think he's bringing on the UFO people just because it's a hot topic and he wants to cover it. And there have been a few things on his show that have been enlightening to me, but most of it's just the canned stuff. Like he had Stephen Greer on, he's had a few people, and it's the same as everybody else has done over the years. Whereas Jesse pokes the bear and he pokes it into the box you want it in. He wants it in, or whoever's controlling him wants it in, instead of like leaving it up to our imagination. This whole Eric Davis thing turned into Eric Weinstein's pissed because the UFO people are a bunch of buffoons, and that if he'd stepped in and taken care of it, we'd have all the answers right now. And I don't know if that's what they want out there, is they want us confused about who's in charge, because those are all the guys that are in all the movies that are coming up. If they want us to like disregard them, I'm just trying to figure out what this is all about.
Well, you guys hold on right there, because we do have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. And Lorian, if you want to stick around with Josh and myself, you're more than welcome, because we are going to switch topics. It is the 29th anniversary of the Phoenix Lights incident. 29 years ago, the aliens arrived in the Arizona desert.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, guys, we're clear.
Okay. Hey, thanks for letting me talk about that. I really appreciate it, because not very many hosts would let me talk about some other host show.
Well, you know what? It's relevant to the segment, so that's why it works.
Oh, good. And yes, I'll stick around for Phoenix Lights. I don't have much to say, but I like to listen and make a comment or two. I don't know much about it, but I do have a couple stories from that. But,
Well, this is Josh's forte.
Yeah, Josh, you
Over
go for it, man. The woo-foo wizard of them all.
Why they call him the wizard. And they is the entire UFO world. Not that it was made up here. Hey, B.
No.
Arthur in the chat room. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. You're looking golden tonight.
Oh, I didn't put a picture up there. Was I supposed to do that, Dave?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I think the pulsating circle every time you talk, I mean, it just gives a little, air of ambiguity. Really adds to the.
Oh.
It's like a mystery.
See, that's why Josh is allowed here for using words like ambiguity.
Oh, God.
He's one of them smart people. By the way, Josh, I was going to call you the other night because I saw your post about your wife getting a 4.0 GPA or whatever it was. Could you give her a big congratulations from all of us? That'd be
well. Yeah, she had to outdo me. I graduated with my master's in psychology with a 3.6. So she decided she had to outdo me, and so she's going to try to maintain her 4.0 until she graduates at the end of this year.
Wow, good for her.
Yeah,
that's impressive. Give her a few claps from us.
Is she doing psychology as well?
She is.
Oh my God! So you're going to be the husband and wife psychology team. Nothing scary about that.
She actually wants to be a counselor, so she's going to do her master's in psychology now, and then probably in a couple of years do her doctorate in counseling. So
yeah. So she'll become an MFT.
Yeah.
Okay. Much easier if you've already got your PhD.
Yeah, she was working on her master's in counseling. But was coming up on the she had to have an internship, and she works full time, and so we weren't really sure how we were going to swing full time work, full time mom, and somehow work an internship in. So she switched master's in psychology, and then a couple of years down the road, when the kids are able to drive themselves or have moved out to go to college or whatever, then she'll go back and get her doctorate.
Yeah. Smart move. I work for one of the top psychologists in the United States. She's in the top 25.
Yeah, both of our for each of us, our degrees are in the research side of psychology, so not clinical psychology.
Oh, okay. Very cool. We run we don't run it anymore because we don't have to, but we're working with a company called NeuroCoach, and it does brain repair. And she's the psychologist in charge of it on like the West Coast, and it helps regrow brain pathways after major accidents or trauma or severe concussions, strokes, and mostly it helps regrow pathways that bypass the cravings for alcohol and drugs. And that's what we're using it for mostly in our practice.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. It's been a few weeks ago, and I was reading an article about there's a new device that can be used that uses electromagnetic pulses to treat people with ADHD.
Oh, cool.
So, like I said, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it is actually they're pushing for it to be an insurance covered
medical device. Yeah.
Medical device. Yeah.
Yeah. We can't get ours covered. We've been trying for 10 years. It's a nightmare getting that insurance. And once we get the insurance, this thing is going to go global. I mean, it's amazing. It's just very expensive. And right now you have to have a coach with you when you do the session, kind of like a trainer or something.
Hold on, guys. We're coming back in 5 seconds.
Okay.
Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Josh Rutledge, the Wizard. Lorian Fenton is here. And it's the 29th anniversary of the Phoenix Lights. And what a story it is, from flares from jets to fake aliens being trotted out into a press conference. It was an incredible, incredible time. So let's take you through here what happened back in March of 1997. Literally tens of thousands of people from Arizona and parts of Nevada watched seeing these unusual lights moving across the sky over roughly 300 miles. Witnesses described seeing huge V-shaped or boomerang-shaped formations. And later that night, many people in the Phoenix area saw a separate light or a separate line of lights just lighting up in about a 2-mile span. Josh, want to get your take. You live in the Arizona area.
I do. I wasn't here for Phoenix Lights. I was in Kentucky when that occurred, but I do remember reading about it and hearing about it on the old television. I have met people since coming to Phoenix who were here for the Phoenix Lights and actually have had some experiences and shared those experiences with me. I mean, it's an amazing. It was an amazing event. You mentioned that there were some flares from planes. That's really interesting. So the main event for the Phoenix Lights was actually witnessed by most people in Phoenix around the 8 p.m. time frame, local time. The flares that were later dropped and then filmed were around 10 p.m. So anybody who says, "Oh, here's the picture of the flares," that's the event, understanding that there was a 2-hour gap between when people reported what they saw versus when the flares were dropped over South Mountain.
Well, remember, Dr. Stephen Greer summoned them in that we found out 28 years later.
Yeah. Again, easy to make a claim for something that the other party can't necessarily dispute.
Very true. Very true. Lorian, did you hear that story?
No, and I'm sitting here laughing because I haven't heard that before.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Last year, Dr. Stephen Greer decided to come out publicly for the first time saying that he was on a plane flying to Phoenix and he was starting to summon them in on the plane. And then eventually he met up with a general and they went up top of this mountain where he is the one who called in the Phoenix Lights.
Oh God, why do I just not believe that story?
You think
Yeah,
he might have told it a year or two earlier rather than 28 years later.
How
yeah.
about record it while it's happening so we can all really know for sure?
But who
It,
did see them, and call them in, was actor Kurt Russell. He was flying his son Wyatt from Los Angeles to Phoenix when he saw these lights appearing in the sky that seemed very odd. And he actually started talking to the control tower about them.
I did hear that. That's very interesting.
you know what's even more interesting about that particular story with Kurt Russell? He forgot about it.
What?
After he landed and dropped his son off, he forgot all about it for like 20 years. And then it came up on some show that he was being interviewed on, and that's when he remembered that he actually witnessed this. Like, he just totally blanked it out for 20 years.
Oh, that sounds like a contactee to me.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. Here's another piece of hockey trivia, because Lorian, I know you love hockey. You're a big San Jose Sharks fan.
I am.
Did you know that Kurt Russell's son Wyatt, before he was an actor, played junior hockey here in British Columbia as a goaltender?
I do know that. I know all about it. Yep, that I do know. But I don't know what happened, but he didn't go pro.
No.
Yeah.
No, he did not. But one of the big issues with the Phoenix Lights that I saw was it a day or two after Governor Fife Symington comes out and does this press conference. And
that really pissed me off. But go ahead, tell the story. It made me very angry.
so Symington holds this press conference. He's got media from all over the United States there because they're all interested in the UFOs. And he says, we found the culprit. I'm paraphrasing here. We found the culprit. We've caught them. And we know who committed the Phoenix Lights. And then the bay doors open to the hotel ballroom where this press conference is being held. And they trot out a person in an alien gray suit, costume, in handcuffs. And the alien walks up to the microphone and says, I'm sorry. And everybody starts laughing. Symington gets a laugh, much to the chagrin of a lot of his citizens of Arizona, who the majority of them did not like him, thought he was crooked as can be at the time. And then he makes fun of them for seeing these lights and giving a cockamamie press conference about it. Now, years later, about 15, 20 years later, Symington actually comes out for the first time and says that he witnessed them as well and didn't know what they were. Josh, do you think that he was told by someone up above to make fun of this subject? Because it just seems like that.
I don't think so. I don't think there was any conspiracy there. I think it's just a matter of it was actually several weeks after it occurred. People were, really still trying to figure out what was going on. And I think he was just trying to, add humor into a situation that was really being taken very seriously. Just from what are they? Why are they here? He was just trying to lighten the mood. I think it just didn't go over well. I don't think there was anybody higher up that said, hey, do this thing to distract people from this or whatever, or to cast doubt on anything. I think the military scrambling jets 2 hours after it happened and dropping flares over the mountain, that was done to cast doubts on what was happening. But I don't think Fife Symington, I don't think he did anything there was no grand conspiracy. He made a bad decision in his efforts to try to lighten the mood. He didn't read the room, so to speak. But I don't think there was anybody directing him to do so.
I totally agree with you. I think that his press person put put it all together thinking it would just calm everybody down and get some of the heat off of them, because I bet the military was going after their office saying, shut this down. We're tired of people, haranguing us and calling. They were calling the airport. They were calling the bases nearby. There were reporters everywhere. I mean, this went on for like weeks after the event. So I'm pretty sure they got told, do something, to settle this down. And I'm sure he wasn't on that phone call. It was his press person there in his office that was on that phone call. So anyhow, that's my take on it. That's what I think happened. And like you said, Josh, I think he didn't know that they were going to do that. I think it was just sprung on him at the last minute. And he went along with it because, frankly, what's he going to do? Right. He's got to get the press away from the subject as fast as he can.
I mean, like you said, Dave, he was being investigated at the time for some, rather shady things. So it would have benefited him more to keep this in the news, right? Because it would have distracted people from the other things that were going on. So, the fact that he, made this little joke, in an effort to quieten things down, I think indicates that, he was just going along with, like you said, Lauren, like what his press people were telling him that they think that he should do to try to quieten things down.
Yeah, I did hear that his office was getting calls from the military base, the airports, anybody who the PR people in the whole state of Phoenix or the city of Phoenix and the state of Arizona were calling daily. I mean, they were getting deluged. That's what the word I think they used for the military guys. They said they were getting deluged with phone calls about the ship. And so I know they wanted that story to go away, and so, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And I feel bad for him in a weird way because, God, what was it? 20 years later, he comes out and says it, Dave. What did you tell us? How many years was it?
He witnessed it. He said,
oh, that's right. Yeah. So how many years later was that, though?
Oh, 50.
That was, he said that in James Fox's, We Know What We Saw. That's where he went on the record as saying he had an experience too.
Oh, interesting.
Come out.
Okay. That was a while back, but still, I mean, at least he admitted it.
True.
2009 is when that came out.
Yeah.
So.
Very true.
Well,
let's get to another story here because here's one that came out that I want to get your opinion on. We all know Steven Spielberg has created a new UFO movie coming out in June called Disclosure Day. And he was recently asked by the Hollywood Reporter whether or not he believes in real life existence of aliens. And Spielberg's response is this: I don't know any more than any of you do, but I have a very strong suspicion that we are not alone here on Earth right now. And I made a movie about that, said the legendary 79-year-old filmmaker during a keynote interview at the South by Southwest Film Festival. Elaborating on his view, Spielberg noted that when he heard former President Barack Obama recent viral comment that aliens are real, his first thought was, oh my God, this is so great for Disclosure Day. And 2 days later, he stepped it back up to say that what he believed was in life in the cosmos, which of course everybody should have believed in, he continued, because no one should ever think that we are the only intelligent civilization in the entire universe. So I've been thinking since I was a kid that we are not alone. So that just goes without saying. The big question is, are we alone now? And have we been alone over the last 80 years? Have we been alone over the last few thousand? And Spielberg says he was reinvigorated into making his first UFO movie since Close Encounters of the Third Kind by the New York Times 2017 story about a secret government program tracking UFOs, as well as the congressional hearings in recent years featuring government whistleblowers. Yet the filmmaker says he's never seen a UFO himself, though he desperately wishes he had. He goes, I made close encounters of the third kind. I haven't even had a close encounter of the first or second kind, he said. Why haven't I seen anything? Half of my friends have seen UFOs. Where's the justice of that? If you're listening out there, I'm not afraid of any aliens. I have no fears about it whatsoever. I think our movie does take into consideration that social dislocation that could occur if it was announced there is interaction with aliens that have been going on for decades. It's going to cause a disruption in a lot of belief systems, but I don't think it is a lethal disruption at all. Your thoughts, Lorian?
Oh my God. Well, I just saw the poster for this movie today, and it's got what, a universe with an eyeball in it looking out at you. It looks like a UFO shape. I mean, it's very strange. And for Spielberg to say something like that when I know full well he was read in back when he was making Close Encounters of the Third Kind by Jacques Vallée and a few other people. The reason I know this is because our long lost friend Jordan Maxwell was working with some people that were working with Spielberg. Anyhow, long story short, he was at a party where he knows that Spielberg knows all about the UFOs and the aliens, because Spielberg was read in when he was making E.T. So, I mean, Close Encounters. I'm sorry, wrong one. And so I know he knows. And he's just saying what he has to say because he's not allowed to sit there and say, just like Barack Obama wasn't allowed and got spanked for it, to say that ETs are real. So anyhow, that's just what I know from Jordan Maxwell.
And Josh, you sent me something that was very interesting about how Disclosure Day was. You sent me that picture, right? About the teleprompter.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Yeah, so you actually gave me, has said, hey, pause the TV, pause the trailer at the scene where it's later on in the new official trailer. They're like it's back in the studio where they're doing the news report or whatever. And if you pause the video when they're looking at the screen of teleprompter things and grab a clip, what is on the teleprompter reads, nuclear threat looms over the continent and the world. So that's going to be read, or at least it's a line to be read by the news anchors in the movie. So, based on the interview that you just read there, Dave, from Spielberg, I think I've pieced together what this movie is. It's people who know the quote unquote truth, and it's Spielberg's portrayal of how that truth could affect the populace, the world, the globe, everybody, markets, whatever, if it were to come out. That's my prediction on what this movie is going to be about. And I'm hoping that the movie ends off with crisis averted. We're all better off having to know the truth. But that's what I think is going to be kind of the underlining driving factor, is that how society will react to quote unquote truth.
The other aspect too is, once again, how real it's hitting at home. Okay. A lot of people are talking. Are we entering the start of World War III with what's going on in the world right now? Okay. And there's always been talk over the years that if the big buttons are pushed, the aliens are going to divert these nuclear weapons and blow them out of the sky. Many people have said that they've got that in downloads and visions and so on and so forth. And it really makes me wonder, Lorian, as we got about 3 minutes to go, if that is, kind of a precursor of what we're going through today.
Dave, I worry I worry every day about what humans are doing to this planet, and I pray that the ETs intercede and fix the problems, but that's not happening. And what you just said is very, very true. I mean, I just don't know. It seems like we're at the precipice of some big changes going on in the world. And I just wish the aliens would come down and take care of us all. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think we've got to figure it out for ourselves. So,
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think that it's kind of like a kid in a hot stove, right? They let us touch the hot stove, right? In 1945, 46, when we dropped the
47?
40, yeah. Well, and when we dropped the 2 bombs, they let us touch the hot stove.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They let us touch it every time we detonated. You know, U.S. detonated like 1,500 nuclear weapons over the course of, 10 years. They let us touch the hot stove then. But, now we know that the stove is hot. And I think the only time they'll really step in is if we're going to touch the hot stove again. But everything else, I think they're kind of waiting on. It's unfortunate that as a society, as a people, really, that we always look to someone else to fix our problems for us. And for a lot of people, aliens have just replaced whatever their deity was or whatever, or as an addition, sent by their deity to help pull humanity up out of the muck. But, the only way we're ever going to learn not to touch the hot stove is by getting burned. And that's how we learn.
Yeah, we're kind of silly that way.
Yeah. We
are kind of silly. It is the human way. This whole free will God had to give us, like, holy cow. Holy cow. Like, you think it could have, tightened it up a little bit, tightened up the screws a little bit on that. But yeah, I think overall, I can't wait for Disclosure Day to come out. I think it's going to be very interesting. There's already some major points in there that I think are going to play out what we're seeing in ufology today. And I still think the next big thing that we're going to hear coming out of that movie is the clicking sounds, communication clicking sounds. And I think you're going to see a lot more people come out of the woodwork about that.
Which I'm going to tell you, Dave, every time I watch the trailer and hear that clicking noise, I get energy waves over my body, like not cold chills. They're not, like an eerie thing. It's just energy waves all over my body every time I hear them.
You got that right.
Those clicking sounds really bother me, you guys. Reminds me of something.
Yeah. I remember listening on my patio to the conversation. Yep. It was weird.
It's also used in signs. If you remember, he holds the walk.
Oh, yeah.
The car, and that's what you hear them talking on that. So, yeah.
The clicking sounds are making a return, and we got to say goodnight. Thank you, Lori and Fenton from UFO Con in San Francisco, caufocon.com. We'll see you next week. Josh Rutledge, thank you, my friend, for filling in for Lee Strauss. Hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Rocket in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, and the Space Travelers Club on X. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. job, people. Good job. Good job.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. I'll see
Hey,
you
Lorian,
next
can you
week.
stick around for a couple minutes?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
What can I add something real quick? I know we're done.
No, not at all. No.
Okay.
Josh, you're not a nice person, okay? You're not a nice person.
I was going to say, if we could imagine that species used to have a use for vocal cords, but has since developed the ability to speak telepathically. They may still make noises with their vocal cords that don't resemble words as they are speaking telepathically. We see this with people who are, born deaf. As they learn how to speak sign, they still make noises with their vocal cords. They just don't, for us, translate into words. So I wonder if a lot of times the clicking noises that we're hearing are not necessarily dialogue, but just an after effect of telepathic communication.
I believe so, and I'll tell you why. I think that I absolutely agree with you. When they're on the ship, I don't think they need to click. When they're in our atmosphere, I think they do, because it works like bat sonar for them, so they can locate each other. I think that's what they're using it for. I don't think they're communicating with it. I think they're located. It's a location device.
And it's also possible that it has something to do with being in our atmosphere.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Sound has to have a medium to travel.
That's
Perhaps
right.
on their ships, they don't have that medium for that sound to travel.
I've never heard a person in all the years I've been asking people, no clicks on the ship. Only when they're on the ground here have they, or, in our atmosphere, or some, maybe. I think one lady said she heard him do it in our atmosphere, but I don't think anybody I've ever talked to says they heard it on the ship. That everything was telepathic on the ship.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is I am going to shit my pants if all of a sudden out at Flight 21 this year, I start hearing the clicking sounds.
Oh, Jesus. I would too. I don't know what I'd do. I really don't.
I will shit my pants.
Oh, man.
I don't mean to sound that in a rude way, but
Don't eat any Taco Bell before you go.
there's no Taco Bell up here.
That's right. There isn't any.
Lorian, Friday night. 1 week from right now, it's 12:01 a.m. Pacific. 1 week from right now,
We'll
and I
be eating Taco Bell.
We are eating Taco Bell.
You bet. You bet. Let's get the Grubhub or whatever to bring it to us.
Well, hopefully we don't get the same driver as last year. It took 2 hours.
Or better yet, let's just make Robert Peralta drive us down the street to one.
Well, Peralta should, but the problem is he goes to bed at 7:30.
I know. Well, we'll find somebody who's got a car there. I only have the van. Oh, the van will be empty. We could load up a whole bunch of people in there and have party.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm only paying by the mile, so who cares, right?
Right?
Right.
I'm willing to do that.
Okay.
So,
did you need to talk to me about something privately?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody, Josh, you can hang out.
Okay.
Everybody else, big thank you tonight to T-Bone ×2, Jorgensen, Matthew, Capes ×4, and Roswell with the quote of the night saying the Maple Leafs suck. 7. Great comment. I actually took a picture of it. I screenshotted it. And a big thank you for that. See, that's just smart listenership right there.
That is. What can I say?
Smart listenership. I mean, not all of us have a Macklin Celebrini. Some of us have a Connor McDavid. But
yeah,
like, who are these guys? Who are these?
I like my guy a lot. I like his line mates a lot too.
Race fan says, if Dave shits his pants, I want to see the video. So the rest of you, we're going to say goodnight to all of you. Thank you for supporting us. It'll be a short week next week because I am flying. I'm going to finish up the Thursday night show, and then I have to drive down to Vancouver immediately afterwards. So I may start that show an hour earlier. I'm going to debate that for the next couple of days. I may start that show, like I said, an hour earlier. So if we do, we'll let you know on the Wednesday night. We will see you all very, very soon. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there. Good night, everybody.